It's LV Europa. Whatever you do, make sure you do it in the toughest environment. Mac double. That's the only way we grow. Yo, roll call for them tough niggas who act inspiring. You can't hit the stage with my vets if you don't meet requirements. Heard you did all that work from the fifth to the first when I birthed your retirement. You hanging it up and it's still not enough in the toughest environment. Toughest environment, niggas will spit till they vomiting. Toughest environment, niggas will bring the piranhas in. Toughest environment, better be talking to scholarship. Toughest environment. Who the toughest, who the strongest, who the smartest? Hitting the stage, PowerPoint, and I'm going through papers regardless. Listen up, got a point to prove, but I'm moving on, cause you niggas retarded. Toughest environment, only up make you a target. You don't want that smoke, shit your body last week, run down on the whole Christina class with the pop. Oh my gosh, sa.neter, I think you the GOAT, no rigmarole. Still take total control, just put my shit at the top of the post. For toughest environment. Listen, just get it, I'm still past a minute, I work every minute, and maybe I'm on with Chris and his thoughts, and I thought you should know that this ain't a scrimmage. And I'm shaping you right, molding you tight to be in the image of toughest environment. Yo, roll call for them tough niggas who act inspiring. You can't hit the stage with my vets if you don't meet requirements. Heard you did all that work from the fifth to the first when I birthed your retirement. You hanging it up and it's still not enough in the toughest environment. Toughest environment, niggas will spit till they vomiting. Toughest environment, niggas will bring the piranhas in. Toughest environment, better be talking to scholarship. Toughest environment. I'm sure we can work this out, just get in the ring. You better be Zion Alexa, this vessel, divine prospect when he doing this thing. Or Captain Tazari, out there, cross that line, I get away clean. Or Ali Muhammad, so valid, still got me up on my dean. All of it brought together because of the studio. Stop acting like y'all could have been doing that cause you didn't do it though. And I watched them lions get ran out of the den, this shit'll get crucial. Who you know take the whole damn stage and turn that shit to a musical. Stay in your cubicle. The environment's tough, don't wire me up, I'm calling your bluff. I'm running it back and I'm running it back like it's never enough. Got them diamonds in the rough, and we can't get to every treasure, but you gotta help me dig it up. But to me it's like whatever. Yo, roll call for them tough niggas who act inspiring. You can't hit the stage with my vets if you don't meet requirements. Heard you did all that work from the fifth to the first when I birthed your retirement. You hanging it up and it's still not enough in the toughest environment. Toughest environment, niggas will spit till they vomiting. Toughest environment, niggas will bring the piranhas in. Toughest environment, better be talking to scholarship. Toughest environment.
Peace and Black Power, family. Y'all already know what it is. You know what it is. We got Lord Abba in the building, quick and fast. You know how you get out the ring, like you whistle blow again, and the fighter jumps out like he ready to go in. That's how Lord Abba look right now. He ready to go in.
Yeah, peace. What's going on, Sal? Can you hear me?
What's going on? Hey, Lord Abba, before Smash get in, let me ask you, man. There's a lot of brothers and sisters out there that doubt your ability to bring forth scholarship. Why do you think that is, man?
But can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Peace. First and foremost, shout out to my brother sa.neter. I don't want to say I don't know, right? Me and Unc was having a discussion. Shout out to Brother Smash. Me and Unc was on the phone talking the other day, right? And I said something to him. I can't remember exactly. And he was like, Ab, I don't ever remember you saying that. I said, I know, Unc, because what I was presenting got caught up in a bunch of the pseudology that a lot of the Moors were presenting, right? sa.neter been asking me the same question for years, up until about 4 years ago. Lord Abba, is it true that Moors call themselves free white persons? I'm like, I don't teach that crap. Why do you keep asking me that question?
I remember.
So I think that's a lot of what it comes from. Then the last couple times I was on here, I was just playing around with Inky and Katazah. Katazah was light work because his own book proved that Ruth was a Moabitess. The Hebrew Israelites outside of the ISUPK camp said the same exact thing. So, you know, it is what it is. It is.
Well, you see what Illa said. Illa's right there, read it.
Oh, yeah, she said, I think they doubt his ability because of their own limitations, projections. And that's my sister right there. Shout out to United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. Shout out to my Be the Power family. Shout out to the Freedmen Conscious family all across the country. What's going on? What's going on?
All right, let me go on over to Smash real quick. Smash, talk to me, man. What brought about this beef? Not beef as in hating each other, but beef as in dealing with the information. Yours versus mine. I'm right, you're wrong. I got the scholarship, you got the pseudo-ship. What's going on? What brought about this, man?
Peace. Mic check. You can hear me cool?
Loud and clear.
Peace, Lord Abba. Hope all
Peace,
is well.
peace,
What's
brother.
up? What's up, sa.neter? I don't know. I think about earlier, we got a long history of studying and learning together, through the internet, me and Abba. I think I first came across his material in about 2010, maybe 2011, when I was more interested in learning what was going on with the Moorish Science Temple or the different, Moorish temples or what have you. And so I found some of my brother's work. But I think I wrote an article to respond to some claims he made early on. I think I wrote the article about 2012 when I heard claims basically kind of like saying that Moors was in Kemet by that name, Moor, M-R, and it kind of stemmed from something the good brother C. Freeman L. put out earlier on, and we touched on that. And so I kind of wrote some documents to discard that information, and it went in my first book, which was Magi, a handbook for the conscious community that I was selling at the first debate. I mean, not the first debate, but at the Kemet on trial debate, right? And so that's what that was. But, it's just what it is. People, when you discuss similar subject matter, you can come across each other time and time again, you know what I'm saying?
All right, so y'all know that this is a discussion between Lord Abba and Smash Rockwell. But we all know that's just a softer tone down for debate. A discussion.
I'm trying to say that with Jabari, brother Smash.
A discussion is nothing but just a soft way to say it, So I'm gonna fall back, and I don't think y'all need a clock, right? Because y'all gonna respect each other.
Definitely.
Okay, so
but why you falling back? You got a moderator. I mean, what we got questions on hand, or what's on hand?
Lord Abba he's the challenger. Lord Abba's the challenger. He will be bringing all the smoke and all the questions to you, and maybe you can have questions for him, and y'all answer each other.
So this is what I wanted to do, right? Because I was sent a clip. Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I was sent a clip from a mutual friend of ours, brother Smash. I won't name.
It don't matter.
Figure out who I'm talking about, but I'll just call him a mutual friend. And I listened to it, and it was a sound like a Jamaican brother that jumped on. It was like, Smash, what about that pseudo stuff that Lord Abba was saying about MR in the debate with Inky? And then you was like, I smashed Lord Abba out on that 10 years ago. Right? And I know that's just terminology that we use. I probably would have said the same thing, right, if I penned a similar article going at whoever, because that's just how we talk. You're a battle rapper, I'm a battle rapper. That's just how we talk. So I wanted to have a discussion about it, because I don't think that we ever really fleshed it out. I started this article, brother Smash, when I started a rebuttal, right? When I first read your article, I'm trying to find, let me see. I'm trying to find how do I find out when I started this article? It was back around 2011, maybe. I can't remember. But it was crazy, because I was looking at it. I was like, yeah, I would have got at this brother had published this thing. Why I did not publish it, I do not know. So this is what I want to do. I want to just open up this PowerPoint and just jump in at any moment, and we, just have a discussion back and forth on it. I think that it is a powerful discussion that needs to be had on, number one, understanding of what individuals are saying, And sometimes you have to separate the individual from the actual group, because I wasn't with a lot of that pseudo stuff that a lot of those other Moors was kicking, which is why none of them like me, which is why you hear Commission Adept going at me all the time, right? He come from out of the camp of what I call the faker Moors. And so, Sa, can you share my screen real quick?
All right, now I'm gonna just have to give you 5 minutes because we don't want you going through a whole thing, because I want Smash to respond too.
Yeah,
so
but we don't have to be strict on no clock, because he said he wanted me to respond while he's presenting.
All right, gotcha. All right, you agree. All right,
all right. So just share this. This is something that I wrote back in, as you can see, January 2nd, 2014. The Moors came from the sacred Mount Moor. Now, usually when you write something like this, you write it out in question form. Did the Moors come from the sacred Mount Moor? But I didn't want to do that because I wanted to draw people to the article. And I'm giving this breakdown, right? I said it is or should be the scholastic and academic will of the author of any works to give to the reader, researcher, and seeker the utmost qualitative information in the specific project that he/she undertakes. The final product.
Real quick, Abba, so that I can read with you. sa.neter, if you don't mind, can you put it completely big on the screen? Because we don't have to.
I'll blow it up. I'll blow it up as well on my end.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you, Sa.
All right. So I said the final product of the project should be methodologically sound, and that the who's, what's, when's, where's, why's, and how's should be completely covered in the works thusly fulfilled. Now, this was a part of a book that I was writing. The first chapter of this book brings us all, the author, the reader, the researcher, etc., to the point of a rather interesting conundrum. And it is because of this conundrum, this author thought it best to begin this book with this topic. And then I get into this whole breakdown, but I want to scroll down to what I said right here, right? I said, what this author will show in this regard is by no means to be taken as a factual rendering. Conversely, it also should not be dismissed as a fallacious rendering, hence the conundrum. In the same way, one has to postulate on why they believe that from zero comes one, is something I break down in an earlier paragraph, is the same way that we should look at the evidence presented henceforth in this chapter. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And the reason why I wanted to start with that was because I wasn't making definitive statements. I was making statements, especially on this topic, that would lead all of us as researchers to think about these questions when it comes to Moors being in Kemet, and on the backdrop of the article that our brother wrote. So I can't see nothing
on the screen.
Yeah, I don't see anything right now, sir.
What happened, bro? You had to take it off because it was showing.
Yeah, I took it off. But now I don't see anything.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to start this off with that. And I want to share this screen for me, sir. And then me and our brother Smash can just jump into this discussion. And we can touch on other things as well. The issue of blackness if you want to, because that factors into, I think, some of the discussion that we've had over the past several as well. So this is the first page of our brother's article. No more Kemet, no more Kemet, no Kemet, no more. And I was reading it earlier, brother Smash, and I was laughing because I know this brother has updated his methodology by now, because I was looking at some of the claims on the backdrop of what I've researched over the years, and I was able to come up with the conclusion that I was like, nah, this, 10 years ago maybe you could get this off, but in today's day and time where our methodology has updated, and we have these AI bots, which I put all of this stuff through before we got on here, and confirmed a lot of my hypothesis. That type of stuff just wouldn't fly. I'm thinking about going back and redoing all of my articles because I've found a lot of problematic stuff within my own stuff. So I want to go to this next.
Well, just to respond to that real quick.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
I would say for this discourse, I'm fully prepared and willing to defend that 2012 work right there.
Oh, okay.
So if there's anything that you see that you found that's outdated, that I just let's put it on the burner. And if it's something that you're teaching me, that I'm gonna address it. You feel me?
I got you. Definitely. And this is what I wanted to do. I just wanted to have a discussion about it. I think that it's edifying, and it's a little curveball from the regular discourse of our Bible thumpers that we have so frequently on sa.neter's channel as of late. So M-R, right? This is the basis of the claim that the word Moor can be found in Egypt, or the Egyptians were Moors. We've heard it presented in many different ways. I proposed the hypothesis that this word Moor, which has no etymological trace according to the online etymological dictionary, in any etymon that you pull up, we can kind of create a preponderance by looking at certain words that have MR at its root and then, walk through it. So we know that pyramid is M-R, right? Some pronunciation say that it's pronounced mir. And my brother Smash could correct me on anything that I'm mispronouncing, in this presentation, because he knows the glyphs much, much better than I do. And I believe, Brother Smash, that this is the basis for my theory that the word Moor is, in fact, connected to this word in the ancient hieroglyphs. And I ran all of this stuff through my AI bot that I use for scholarship, which is Claude. And it, of course, not definitively, but it confirmed my hypothesis. And I asked it to refute or find any flaws or problems with it, and it could not. The only thing that it said, and I'll get into that a little bit later, the only thing that it said was that, there are linguistic and cultural barriers, but it is fascinating how all of these roots share a similar attribute, and those I'm going to get into. So what are those attributes? The pyramid being one of them. What is a pyramid? A pyramid is a stylized mountain. A pyramid, if you were to stand at the top of the pyramid, you would be able to look over the world. You would literally be an overseer. We can find this in other roots that we find in Budge's dictionary. I ran this, for transparency's sake. I ran it through the AI bot, and I had it give a breakdown despite Budge's problematic translations that we've all come to know are problematic. And it still said that the translations that he give in this regard are on point when matched up against other glyphs. So we see here Mer and Meru, right? And it derives from the Meteranich stela, and it means desert, plain, or mountain. And we see the three bumps here and the three bumps here. I'm just, for lack of a better term, I'm just going to call it bumps or hills.
Kasat glyph is the Kasat glyph.
That's the term that it came up with on the AI. And I'm not reading from that right now, but you're absolutely correct. So I'm just running through these brothers
right here before you go further.
Okay, go ahead.
So if we look at the definition given by it's Budge. Oh no, that's Budge here. It says a desert plain or a mountain. And then we see that determinative we just talked about, the Kasat glyph. If you go back to your first one you started out with, it is a rendition of another term completely, which is for a pyramid. And so we got to take into account that we don't know the vowels, right? And so we do know those consonants are the same, but in instances like this, it could be the case that the vowels were different, which would render two completely different words. But just from the GP, just from Jump Street, those two terms ain't like associated with each other?
Well, that's not what my research shows, and I want to get into that. Matter of fact, I'll read from that real quick. Okay, it says the root mer, M-E-R, M-R, and its meanings. You raised two excellent questions about the possible correlation between these various mer entries in pyramids. Whether the hierarchical concept of overseer / chief being above others might be the semantic basis for these related terms. Looking at the hieroglyphic entries you've shared, we can observe several important patterns. The mer, MR, root and administration. The entries in your images show that mer serves as a root for various high-ranking administrative positions in ancient Egypt.
Time out for a minute, Lord Abba. Are your slides moving?
No, I'm just reading right now. But I'm gonna move the slides in one. Matter of fact, I'm gonna move them now.
All right,
move them now. Right. So this is what Claude is analyzing for me, right? So where we find this word mer, right? And I know I'm gonna butcher these pronunciations. Mer'at, overseer of the estates. Mer'ahu, inspector. Merda, chief of the caravan. Mer-in-set, chief of the mountain track. Mer-per, chief of the house, right? So in all of these glyphs, what we're finding is Captain Mer, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that, overseer of the boats, captain of the fleet. Mer-unut, a kind of priest, which occupied a high position in ancient Egypt. Mer-per, chief of the house. Mer-per, chief steward, right? And I could keep going through the rest of these. Mer, overseer, chief officer, chief officer, head, superintendent, director, foreman, plural. Mer'at, if I'm saying that correct, inspector of dignities of the highest kind. Meru'at, heads of families, chiefs of tribes. So when I ran that through Claude, it broke it all down for me. It said the connection between Mer and pyramids is interesting. As I noted previously, there's evidence that the Egyptian term for certain structures, likely including pyramids, was indeed Mer. This appears to support what you're suggesting about a potential correlation. The semantic relationship may be explained by two possible factors. Hierarchical concept. The Mer root seems fundamentally tied to concepts of hierarchy, authority, and being quote unquote above others. This would metaphorically align with pyramids, which physically rise above the landscape and represented divine authority in Egyptian culture. 2, etymology. The root MR in Egyptian has connections to concepts of heaps or mounds in related Semitic languages. Pyramids are essentially monumental, geometric, precise mounds. Is there anything that you disagree with that I've read so far from the AI, brother Smash?
It's not necessarily from the AI, but it's, if you go back a few slides, and so what seems to be something you're discovering about all these terms that go back to the one that started with the Mer definitions of E.A. Wallace Budds.
All right.
Oh no, not that far. Yeah, you could go right there, start right there, and we can then proceed on. As we picked up from that word, we established that it was different from the first Mer word. But if you would go to your collection of words, it was like 5 of them on a slide. You'll see that I want to point out one thing to you about this. And so on that slide right there, on this one, what you'll notice is you see a series of what we would probably call in English, if we want to call these words, at least we call them compound words. But if you really look hard, we see a few phrases. And what you'll notice here is, if you look at the glyphs, well, I'll show it in a minute, but on the first word where we see Mer, or what have we over to the upper left, the first glyph he's showing us looks like a tongue it probably doesn't look like it, but it's representative of a tongue out of a bull's mouth. That always represents an overseer, no matter what you're the overseer of. And next, on the next term, mer, and then you see a space, autu, we see an mr also representing that, just the mer part. So this is not like a collection of different terms that so-called proves much, but what it does show is that there is one rendition of the mr glyph that does link back to being overseers. But if you see what I'm saying, some of these are just phrases, like the mer per noob, that's just the overseer of the house of gold, basically. And so that's like a phrase where they use mir, the mir, coming from emi-er, which is actually the term of scrutiny that we have not found in the presentation yet. But it actually comes, the root of all of this is emi-er, and you're probably about to present that a few slides down the line.
No, definitely. And this is why I just want to be clear for everybody. We're having a discussion right now. And I want to present to because I wanted to do this back in the days, right? We battled with the information instead of trying to find some type of common ground to whereas we could give some form of proper critiques. And I felt that I was presenting information that deserved proper critical analysis as opposed to just outright dismissals, right? And so when I'm looking at this word more, what does it mean? We do not know because the etymology doesn't give us that. So when I look at how Moors are presented in history as great achievers, great inventors, builders, they pretty much built Europe. There are many claims that we could find, several references, and some of this stuff has been contested over the past 10 years about the wonders that the Moors did in building up Europe and some of the things that they discovered. Some things are uncontestable, algebra and all of these different things. I have ran a list of those things as well. And so what I was doing here was trying to create this correlation with this group of people. And I'm going to get into that because you said you're willing to stand on everything you put in what you wrote, and you attack the Moabite piece, right? And I'm just using the word attack because, we having a discussion, but it was fair at the time because this was new information to many of us. And I want to touch on that a little bit later, right? So I want to go to my next slides, right? In doing my research, obviously, this is from Peshitta.org. And what this is the word Lord in the Aramaic or the Syriac. We call it the Aramaic. And when you're looking at the word Lord, you'll see that in the Aramaic or Syriac, it is pronounced in different ways. Mare, more. On this slide, we see Mara or Mora, right? But we can clearly see that MR is the root of this word. Again, family, this is me taking my research and putting it together to say, where does this word come from? This is my hypothesis. And I wanted to have this discussion with my brother Smash because I think that he could help me in this regard. Now, many may ask, why did I go to the Syriac? Well, we know that, and I can show this later, in my research that I presented was that there was a language that the Quran of Mecca was revealed in, the Quran of Muhammad, and that was the Mudar language, the language of the Moabites. This isn't Lord Abba saying this. This is what history records, and I'll show that in a few. And in that, certain scholars like Mustafa Gadala noted that the Mudar formed the basis of the Hebrew and the Aramaic and the Syriac and what we call the Arabic languages today. And so I wanted to look at this word Lord because I was seeing that in my research for this MR root also in juxtaposition to what I showed in these Egyptian glyphs, right? Heads of families, sheiks of tribes, which means that these would be looked at as lords of their respective communities. They're just using the, Eastern terminology and sheik. So let me read what the AI analyzed on this topic, because I thought that it was, I thought that it was connected. I thought that it was something that was connecting. All right, so it says analysis of Aramaic lord terms and their relation to the MR root. It said you've shared lexical entries for biblical Aramaic terms related to quote unquote lord with the transcription MRM, yada, 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 each with different grammatical states: empathic, construct, and absolute. Let me analyze whether these Aramaic terms for lord share a linguistic connection with the Egyptian MR root we've been discussing. So it gets into, the breakdown, the root of the Aramaic terms. Yes, your assessment is correct. The Aramaic words for Lord do indeed have MR as their root. Looking at the lexical entries you've shared, which is what I've just showed on the screen, the word is transliterated with variations in pronunciation. The root is explicitly identified as MRM in each entry. The meaning is consistently given as Lord. The consistent MR element across all three grammatical states confirms that this is the fundamental root of the word. And I'm not saying that these words are connected, Brother Smash, the Egyptian MR root and this Aramaic MR root. But we do know that the Aramaic, all of these different languages that I'm speaking about, also known as the Semitic languages, are said to derive from the Egyptian hieroglyphs. So when I'm doing my research, naturally, I am weighing if there is some connection here. Now it says linguistic analysis. The Aramaic term for Lord, often transliterated as Mara or Mere, derives from the Semitic root MR, which appears.
Let me just slide a question in before I get lost.
Definitely.
So it seems like you're, from what I'm seeing you present, that you're going with a root, obviously, that would line up with something that means Lord in the etymon, or the word you're looking for in ancient Egyptian. So that would mean you're going with the MR that means overseer in ancient Egyptian, correct?
So, right, in response to your piece, because you used the MR for, let me go up. You broke down this glyph, right? Which the land Mera, Ta Mere, or Ta Mere.
No, wait, what do you mean? I definitely didn't use that in the discussion. Not about
go ahead, brother.
If you want to go to, so my take is that the main flaw in the analysis is that it's built upon, I pointed out in the first article I wrote, it was built upon the work of E.A. Wallace Budge, where he injects these vowels that might allow you to build a theory based on a rather weak foundation, because, and so I'm gonna try to help with the research instead of knocking it down and see what conclusions we could come to by the end of the road. But one thing I'm noticing is if you got one term Mer that mean pyramids and you got another one that mean overseer, before we go too far on, which one are you showing me information on? You showing information on the one that, when you get into this, you were just in, that was not Aramaic. What was the language? I'm sorry. Was it Akkadian?
No, that was Aramaic.
Aramaic, okay. Yeah, when you show me the MRs, you saying they link back to the one that means overseer and not pyramid, correct?
Lord. So the Aramaic, yes, that's right.
Okay, you can continue. I just wanted to straighten that.
That's right. So, but before we do that, I want to read directly from your paper, because I want to make sure I'm not lost in my understanding of what you were presenting. So this is from your paper published January 10, 2012. It says, in the conscious community, I've witnessed far too often the undue use of exaggeration based on assumption rather than empirical observation or scientific methodology. I agree with you there. There is a term I wish to address in this regard, ta.meri, Egypt, and you spell that T-A-M-R-I. You said the Neo-Moor claims ta.meri to be related to the term Moor based on the employment of the MR consonant combination. The claim is that the term Moor is the root of ta.meri, that Moors were present in Kemet and were represented in the hieroglyphs by use of the MR consonant combination. I do not find any evidence of Moors in Kemet, neither entering as an invading force nor indigenous to the region as called by the name Moor. We do not find these attestations amongst the hieroglyphs. So this is what I'm responding to. The names of the people of Kemet.
So let me straighten it up, because earlier when you said I used that, I said I didn't, and now I need to clarify that. My bad. But if you notice this, that's not me using it. I was laying out the claims of others. You feel what I'm saying? That and when you go through my article and what the conclusion you came to as you came to the period of the final sentence was that there by uses of this MR consonant cluster or whatever we want to call it, these two consonants, that people are saying Moors were in Kemet. So I went further in there to break down what I want, but I just wanted to clarify that I did say ta.meri in laying out what the other people's argument
No, definitely. So, and the point that I was raising was that you focused on ta.meri, the beloved. Am I correct with my assessment?
I was kind of forced to focus on MR for overseer, which was what later, I think in the next chapter, if you continue, is going to show. I'm going to talk about how C. Freeman L. presented MR for overseer, and this is what guys was all saying, that this all had one big root, which is kind of problematic.
No, I definitely get what you're saying. C. Freeman L. was a super pseudo. Like, we was going at all, especially me, I was going at all of them people back in the days. And a lot of people didn't see those debates that I was having with people that was running with that nonsense. So I definitely understand that part of it. And I know that we had some debates on it as well, right? I was looking at the comments and I was cracking up because I posted a comment and then Ankh commented going at me. And then I said something to Ankh. I was just laughing at that earlier when I was reading it, right? But
you are clear that this rendition doesn't have anything to do with the pyramid rendition, nor does it have anything to do with the overseer rendition. This is a use of another root for mer, which is the root love. This is why we call ta.meri the beloved land. So now we got three different options already laid out. You see what I'm saying?
No, definitely.
To refine the argument, you probably stick with the one that will lead to overseer.
No, well, so I want to go to the next slide, right? Because this does not translate into the beloved land. This translates to the people of the land of the Nile flood, i.e. the Egyptian.
That is the E.A. Wallace Budge translation, but let's break it down. I know you've been looking at glyphs for a while, so let's just go to the first glyph we see to the upper left-hand side right there. Right after the Mariu English. No, you can go back to that one. I'm sorry. It was on that slide. The first glyph, if we're reading from left to right, the first one on top, it looked like a straight line with 3 dots under it, right? Yeah, that's just the ta, and it's determinative is under it. That's its own word. It could be just used by itself. So that's just the ta. Ta means land in all instances. There's another use of ta. Well, I don't want to confuse us right now. So ta is representing the land. Now the word is still mer. As you see after the ta, we see a m and an r and then an I. So it say ta.meri. So if you put land in front of meri, if we already know the mer was love, it would literally be meaning land, the beloved land, or the land of the beloved. Now, if you want to see why he say the people of the land, is because the rule they was trying to work out in the time in the 1920s, which he didn't all the way agree with, but you can see it here. He put EU, Tameri U. But what they figure out is this TU, T, a Y, and a W in combination means people associated with, or and we often see that represented by the two people you see there with the three shirts, or and shorter with the G4 TU bird, which some of us would call it. So that's how they would extract people of. Now, he's not 100% incorrect by saying people of the Nile flood, because Tamari, okay, that's the area of the Nile flood. But for this level of scrutiny and for this type of a discourse, we would have to pinpoint that that's not an accurate translation, and it would be, and you can find in more updated books, not in just what I'm saying, that this would be more accurately translated as people of the beloved land, or the land of the beloved ones, something like that.
So, and this is why, because I see people trying to get on me in the chat about running it through ChatG. I actually wrote on this years ago, and I'm rusty on all of this stuff, and I'm definitely not as well studied as you are on this, and I wasn't then. I'm just going to be honest with you, but this is why I ran it through the AI bot. I wanted it to search for other sources to make sure that this wasn't just one of Budge's bad translations or transliterations, right? So
it's not the worst, but at the level of scrutiny we on right now is not useful.
You said, I'm sorry, say the last part again.
It's not the worst translation for this level that we on right here, though. It's not useful because he didn't do a literal translation. He just elaborated.
All right. And I got you. And this is why I did what I did, right, in anticipation of this conversation. So it says the meaning of Moor in this context. The Moor in Tamaral relates to the Nile flood in particular, which reveals another dimension of this root beyond those we've already explored.
Your AI said that?
Yep. I can stop sharing this and
put us on the screen a bit. I messed up, Si, when I was like, because now we're not looking at real small letters. I'm talking about, you keep the presentation up, but you know how you had us to the side? I just messed up earlier because I only wanted to see, be off for that one part. Yeah. And so AI ain't on the level yet. It ain't ready to deal with this information. It gave you that's what they call artifacts. Sometimes it hallucinates and it'll just give you an answer when it don't got an answer. That's completely, I could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt for everybody and for anybody in like a split second that last statement by the AI is completely untrue, where they said the Moor is related to the Nile flood in this breakdown. That they thought that because they probably isolated the Ta and the IU, but the Moor here simply is related to love. And I would, in many instances.
Yeah, I would love to see that breakdown, right? But let me, because this is why I wanted to have the discussion, because I believe we're at the point where we can start discussing some of this information in a way that we probably wouldn't have discussed it 10 years ago. I remember we was on Blog Talk Radio cursing each other out or something like that, yelling and screaming like 10 years ago, 13 years ago at each other, right? But I want to finish reading this, and then I would love for you to give that breakdown.
All right, real quick though, let me add it in because it's gonna be good for all of us and the people, and I hope you enjoy this. One simple thing, and it's anything I say is not absolute. It might it be hitting like 85, 95%. Look at the way that this Moor is spelled. And one thing you're going to notice is that this Moor is spelled with a mer-ho. It doesn't have a bird on top. It doesn't have a pyramid. It has the mer-ho. You're not going to find the Moor with the pyramid ever written with the mer-ho, nor will we find the Moor for overseer written with the mer-ho. Why? Because Moor it comes from the love of the beloved king. This is a symbol of the beloved king, which Asar was the first seen holding, besides Scorpion. I don't want to go into there. Seen holding the merho as a symbol for a king to let us know kingship was rooted in agriculture and feeding more people. So when we notice, all of your renditions will have the what looks like an A turned on its side above that R in the second column.
What is that called? The scythe?
Pardon me?
Like the old scythe or hold to till the land, what I believe is called.
Yes, sir. And you'll notice what I'm saying will be consistent, that when they talk about a different mode, they're not going to use that glyph because it doesn't have anything to do with love. So right there, even in that town, now you know that town meant to be the beloved town because of the Moor renditions that they are using. Now you're going to find some Moors with a canal glyph, and you'll know those are the Moors that are associated with water, or the MR. Now, anybody watching, when we say Moor, I'm only doing Egyptology speak. This is not the real rendition, but we got to put a vowel in between two consonants in order to talk to each other. We're not going to keep saying MR, MR, MR. But,
definitely.
But just so they know that that vowel is injected. Now, when you see the canal glyph, and I'm talking about in the use of the word, not as the determinative. When you see the canal glyph in terms that have the Moor, they're going to most often be related to things that are nautical or have to do with water.
No, definitely. And that's why I wanted to have this discussion, right? Because of what the brother said, I only proposed based on my own research that these elements were connective. This is why I showed in the Aramaic the same root word, the MR, which the AI doesn't say is connected to the Egyptian MR, but how it gives the same breakdown of overseer, chief, etc., right? And I definitely hear what you're saying, but I want to read this part and get your understanding of it, because I know what you just said, but I still want to read it. It says that one meaning of MR in ancient Egyptian includes pond or pool, especially an artificial one dating to the pyramid text. This water-related meaning connects directly to the role of Moor in Tamarau. That's the one I have up on the screen, as referring to the Nile flood. Multiple meanings of the Moor root. The rich polysemy, multiple meanings of the Moor root, now includes hierarchical oversight, overseer, chief, from previous examples, elevated structures like pyramids, water bodies / floods as in Tamarau, love or affection as in Meri, which is an ancient Egyptian name meaning beloved. It was common during the Old and Middle Kingdom and very frequent during the New Kingdom. So what is your take on how the AI took all of these elements?
Well put. It was very well put. It's just a simple problem that they said. So the next question would have been to make the AI explain something. Are these all the same MR roots? Because what it said was true, but what I'm trying to point out is still a consistent problem in the research, that the data is building conclusions based on different etymons. You see what I'm saying? One MR. Let's act like we had the vowels, right? Now let's say the MR for love had an A, a U, and another U around it. So we would be saying Amaru for that one. But then the one for pyramid couldn't have been said that way because people have been getting confused. So we probably would have been opting for other vowels, but still having an MR, and we probably would have put an E, a O, and that would have been Moru. You see what I'm saying? And so since we don't have the vowels, it's looking like we all dealing with just the one etymon, which leads back to overseer. So almost everything it said was true, but the problem was it didn't point out that it was these things lead back each to different ancient Egyptian words. And then once we finish, I'm gonna show from the text corpus a way that any of us doing this research And it'll be the most useful tool for you doing this research to be able to, because what you can do instead of verifying in dictionaries, you can verify in primary text and show the use case of the word. Like, look, they're saying it like this, they're saying it like this. And what you'll find after I've done that research is that they don't really use those terms that way. When we come down to the best, and I'll leave it at this, when we come down to the best use case, the one I would recommend focusing on, which you seem to be focused on, the one for overseer, it turns out that was an abbreviation of a longer term, which messes up our understanding of it being used as an MR.
But even in that, would you say that the MR is still the consonantal root of that longer term?
I would have to say possibly. It's hard though. I can't really say yeah. I wanted to say yeah, but then when I show you the data, you're going to see that the term that we really should be dealing with, is a compound word, ra. Just means one or that which is in, and ra represents the mouth. So that which is in the mouth, that's why they also use the bull tongue as a shorthand for it. It becomes synonymous with commands or statements of authority. You see what I mean? And so they be saying you should follow that which is in the mouth. You shouldn't follow what everybody say, but you should follow the words of one called a Imi-Ra. So when I say that, they got a hyphen in between the Imi, I-M-Y, dash R-E, which would indicate that the M and the R ain't naturally together. Imi stands alone and Ra stands alone. Ray stands alone as the word mouth. And together one. So think about it. Imi-Ra actually would lead into some Semitic languages with standing on two legs linguistically, if we consider the term Amir. You know the term.
That's right. Because that came up. That's right. That came up in the second set of research.
So in Imi-Ra, that stands on two legs, and I just talked to a lot of people who dealt with linguistics. That ain't getting knocked out the box as easier as some of the other ones.
I see what you say. And that came up in the second set of research that I did. But what's so funny is that you were cited in my AI search, right? So let me finish reading this.
I'll be looking at, believe it or not, it's either me or another Jonathan Owens. I'm trying to be humble, but
it says Rap God. Ain't no other Jonathan Owens named Rap God.
Hey, look, sometimes I'll be going to academia.com and they be like, "You've been cited in this."
Oh yeah. I don't like that. That's a scam, bro, that they use to try to get people to pay for a subscription. And so now, because now your ego is like, who's citing me?
I've never looked because I was like, that can't be me. You feel me?
Yeah, nah. But it cites you. So let me finish. It says etymological insights. This reveals a fascinating etymological connection that unifies the various Moor terms we've been exploring. And I heard your explanation on that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick this thing apart now, right? And I'm gonna think about what you said, and I'm gonna now ask a specific set of questions to it. But let me finish reading. The term beloved land, Tameri, emerged around the 11th dynasty, around the same time as Kemet. As scholar Ogden Golet suggests, these monikers may have emerged from a need to emphasize national unity after the chaos of the first intermediate period. This indicates that.
Did I write that? That's me?
No.
That's good. Keep going.
No, you didn't write that, but it's about to cite you. It says this indicates that one is going to cite you in a second in point 2. One, merging of concepts. The Moor root may have evolved to encompass both the concept of the life-giving Nile flood and the hierarchical authority structure of Egyptian society. Now, and again, this is the AI searching the internet and all that it can find to come up with this particular point. 2, this is where they cite you. Semantic development. Some sources indicate that, quote, Ta.Meri means the beloved land. Ta means land, Meri means beloved. The root of this is MR, love, and then it says rap God. This suggests, and it goes the link right to that same article that we're discussing. This suggests that the various meanings of Mer, authority, elevation, water, love, may have been conceptually linked in ancient Egyptian thought. So, I'm going to scroll down because I want to read, because there's a bunch of stuff that I have here, and obviously we're not going to be able to get through all of this. But one thing it does say, Brother Smash, Budge's reliability versus modern scholarship. So I loved that it did that fit right in line with the theme of your paper, which was we shouldn't just rely on E.A. Wallace Budge's interpretations, because they, for the most part, were either outdated or wrong, right? And, it gives you, it says for contemporary Egyptologists, generally prefer Faulkner's Concise Dictionary of Middle Egyptian, Gardner's Egyptian Grammar, Ehrman and Grappau's man, don't get me to saying this Egyptian name, but you're probably familiar with it. Waterbuch Dar Egyptian Sprachers.
Yeah, don't trip.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
More recent works like Vigas's Dictionary of Middle Egyptian. So one of the questions that I asked was, could Mera be a demonym, right? Could this MR forming word be a demonym for ancient Egypt? For those that in the audience that don't know what a demonym is, it is a name used to describe a people that are a part of a country. We are Americans, right? American is the demonym for America. So it said this: based on these scholarly sources, the ones that it just mentioned, we can draw several conclusions regarding your question about Mera or Meri, or variations possibly serving as demonyms for Egyptians. The term Tamaral does appear to refer to, quote, the people of the land of the Nile flood, supporting the idea that a form of Mer was used in reference to Egyptians. And jump in at any time, it's 4 points here. The connection between MR, Mer, beloved, MRYT, riverbank, and Egypt's identity as Ta.Meri, the beloved land, is consistently supported across multiple sources. The Rosetta Stone, this is 3, includes the demotic for Egypt as Kemi. So that's just getting into Kim. It's just saying it was used more than the term.
Hear that because they said they act like it was a fact. So I didn't hear that. Let's see.
Okay, so the Rosetta Stone includes the demotic for Egypt as Kemi, right? It spells it KMI, suggesting that by the Ptolemaic period, terms derived from Kim, black, were more commonly used as the primary name of Egypt than Mer derivatives. I think that would be a fair.
Yeah, they was trying to give it up. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready.
Say that again?
I said, well, you could continue as long as you
Okay, definitely. So number 4, the evidence suggests that while Mer terms were used in naming Egypt, Ta.Meri, and possibly its people, Tamaral, they may have been more descriptive or poetic designations rather than formal demonyms in the modern sense, right? So this is me asking a question based off of my research, that I believe that this MR may represent a demonym, because I'm trying to find the etymology for the name Moor where none exists when we're dealing with linguistics, right? And so this is why I'm asking these questions. It says the accumulated evidence supports the idea that Mer derivatives were indeed used to refer to both Egypt and Egyptians, particularly in connection with the Nile and its life-giving floods, though perhaps not as the primary demonym throughout all periods of ancient Egyptian history. So, I made sure I asked those questions fairly, in my, because especially since I knew that we was going to have this discussion, and I went back and I looked at the rebuttal that I was preparing for you, which pretty much doesn't deviate from some of the conclusions that the AI drew up for me right now, right? But you know,
at the same time, it don't seem to support your argument as well. If your argument overall is that there were people called Moors in Egypt, you know, substantiating these roots that ain't evidence to this.
No, I got you. So I think that's where the confusion comes in at, right? So whereas we're looking at Moors or the word Moor in its modern sense, and when we look at it like that, we look at, many of us, even Islamic scholars, tend to look at Moors as this separate group, right? When our ancestors are being enumerated and getting off the boats in Mississippi, for instance, they're listing all of the different names, and one of the names is Nar. And we know that Brother Ish found that years ago that the term Nar was referred to as Moor, was an Arabic word for Moor. So some scholars took that word Nar and said that this group of Islam, even if they were fighting against other groups that were practitioners of Islam, were Moors that attacked this other group, although that other group may be Islamic. So I think, and I'm, going off of what you said, when we're looking at it in that sense, then no, you're not going to find more in Egypt that way. What I'm trying to do is trace this root. And if this root is related to this word that we have now in Moor, that was my pursuit.
All right, sir. You did. Let me know when you're there, sir.
I'm here.
So I want to try to help with that a little bit. I'm gonna share the screen,
all right,
if I can, and I'm going to take us to the text corpus. And so I don't think people like it when I say, but it's just for layman's terms. You know what I'm saying? That we could deal with the text corpus the same way the Hebrews deal with the Strongs or anything that gives some a scholarly collective of the use of the terms in their text corpus, but they don't got a text corpus, they just got the Bible. But listen, I'm not here to slight, you know what I'm saying? But if that was looked at as a text corpus, it's not, they just call it the Bible. But anyway, and so if I could share this, I want to illustrate some of the things we're talking about. Now, this is up-to-date scholastic thesaurus lingua Egypti, and I recommend that you also run some of your research through here and learning how to use this tool. A lot of things will be illustrated as soon as you begin to do the research. So I'm on the search page of the TLA right now, right? And so what I'm going to do is come to where it says transliteration. Now, Budge ain't providing us with the transliteration because he's spelling it all out. So that's also a problem, but you already know the transliteration. At least we presume the transliteration for the term of scrutiny is MR. I'm going to illustrate how that ain't necessarily true when I press MR, right? And I'm using the proper manual decodage here. I'm going to click. And what it's going to do before it takes us to the text, it's going to take us to all of the uses, just like Budge or any other dictionary. But this is coming from the Vertible, the book you cited earlier, stating that, okay, there's an MR for binding fetter, right? And there's only 4 attestations to that in the whole ancient Egyptian text corpus. So this is why this is a very useful tool. Now, don't think that just because this MR here for pyramid doesn't have any over here, that has a little check in front of it, so it's a different rendition. But what you'll notice here, the MR for love pops up. What I'm going to illustrate is when we just put MR, the MR for overseer will not pop up. And the reason for that is because of something we'll demonstrate. But we did find one rendition of the love, and they only got 1 attestation of that. So you know that if people were saying MR mean love, we better find more attestations to one in the text corpus as you could go call it a bluff. You see what I'm saying? So now right here, we're at our MR for pyramids. So now this might be useful for you to know that no matter, I mean, now I don't want to act like the text corpus is 100% completely exhaustive. When I go to write books, or you got to go outside the text corpus to see if there's some other texts they ain't found. But what they saying is from all the scholars who work on this, there's only 68 renditions of MR being used to say pyramid, which is not a little, that's a lot. That's enough of us to extract the true meaning of it. 68 true texts where we can read and see what they're talking about. Well, for the MR with similar glyphs, except the bird change, that means to be in pain, to be ill or suffer, there's 153. That's not saying that that's more a likely option for you. It's simply showing how this text corpus could assist our research before we're going to show how what it reveals. Now, when we come to this MR again for chant a canal, right? And you see it's written with it got the merho, but it's also written with the that's an agricultural code. Then it's written with the pond. It has the pond behind it, and they have 128 uses of MR for that. Well, we could go all the way to page 31, and what we'll be saying is, why don't we see the MR for overseer? And the reason is what they found out a long time ago, and what I was trying to illustrate earlier is that if we wanted to find out, when I'm gonna click this page, and now you notice that we do see M's and R's, but they're surrounded by other weak consonants. And what we see right here is actually our term of scrutiny that can't be accessed by just simply coming to a text corpus and putting the M and an R. You have to know the true root. And now if we look at the term of scrutiny, which means a head or overseer, we'll see we working with 54 attestations on this. But let me be clear, there's a lot more than this. This is only with it in this form. 54, and then here's another one right up under it with 21. But then they're going to list all the single titles that use it and show how many times those titles are there. So just at that point, we learned that MER ain't even, these are two, you know what I'm saying, which one we gonna go with. And my recommendation would be to go with this head overseer one, because linguistically you'll be able to wind up at Amir, which still meant an overseer or a head of something. And the Amirs wasn't appointed by blood, neither were ancient Egyptian emirs. So if the Moor that you're talking about has something to do with a blood type appointment, like you could inherit that because it was your blood, nah, you could appoint an emir. As we see right here, it says a title or epithet. Now, this is when the text corpus becomes useful, because when we click into it, it has them in order from the first time it was used. So this is the first time we heard MER used in the text corpus, right, of ancient Egypt. It was on a grave inscription in the Old Kingdom from the rock tomb of El Hawaish or whatever, necropolis of El Hawaish, where it says, may he be buried of his Lord who stoleth. Now, if we want to look into those terms, we can. Of his Lord who, I don't know that word, stoleth of men, chief priest, chief of. And here they are translating MER as his Lord. Now you notice you see another MR right here, right? But I can tell you this is the overseer of the hymn priest, a certain type of priest. Even though they did put it here, they did put the chief priest, and so they got this other MR probably lining up for the Lord.
So wait, let me just ask, because there was a reason why I searched the Aramaic, right? I searched those languages, and that MR root mara was the word for Lord in the Aramaic, which can actually be found in the Bible. That was a concordance, and all of those things that was listed on the side was how many times Lord was used in the Bible when Aramaic is being spoken. So would you say that based on what you're showing now and what you broke down about Amir, that there could be some relation to that martyr, that MR root with Lord in the Aramaic?
Well, it definitely seems the scholars who translate this believe that to be so, because the Lord, I mean, now you can come look of his, they're going to come back to this. So I don't want to say that they're doing that over here. No, they're not. They're going Nebuch. You see Nebuch, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to click Nebuch. That means his Lord. So I don't want to be in error and just agree, right? When I click it, you see it's going to say his Lord. See? So now we identified that they're not using the MR here to say Lord. And this is another reason why we can use this text corpus to help illustrate some of the stuff that they're actually. So then the question one is asking is, what are they using the MR for? Chief of. And then it says word where it has blank blank. Chief of is overseer of. So in the first use case of it from the Old Kingdom, it's in the position as a chief or overseer of something. Now this is the second use case, and this is Ib. I should know Ib in my memory off the top, because he's the second time they used the term Emi-er. It was for Emi-er Ib. He's the head man, or he was the overseer. He was such prominent that they wrote his name on a rock in the Old Kingdom. My man Emi-er Ib. Now we going to where? Still in the Old Kingdom.
Wait, break that down for me. If number five, because you see how it has the J's in the parentheses.
This one right here.
Yeah, that looks interesting.
Yeah, this is about to be good for you, because his name is like they show right here, Marier, right? But it's funny because he is the. Now you see why I'm saying Emi-er, because I want to represent these two J's so we won't get confused. He was the Emi-er, or the overseer, or they say the chief, and his name was Merari. Now we're going to talk about that in a minute once we get up to like the 18th dynasty, because there's something I think I offered people to look at in the article, and I will try to stand on it again, that when they started encountering these dudes, see the battle of Kadesh, I don't want to say the wrong battle. The Battle of Kadesh was brought to a cease because of a treaty between, and I don't want to mess it up. It was between Ramses II and Mari Sili. And now I know what Mari Sili, it makes some sense in Medu-Neter, because the L becomes an R, and we call all King Sarah. So that'll be Mari Sarah. So now I'm like, okay, that's saying the king's son, and then his name was Mari. But it was a whole line of Mari Silis and Mari somethings. Only reason why, and people can say that stuff pseudo, but the only reason why I offer people to do further research into that is because when they was like, Ramses was like, look, let's stop this battle. We're going to fight to a useless end. See, Mari Sili now was down. They wasn't with the Hittites. It was the people the Hittites took over, called the Hattic people, who was known by the Egyptians as the Kemet, who in the Treaty of Kadesh, Ramses II said, let's stop fighting, because our fathers, in these words, paraphrase, had a brotherhood. And they said fraternity. And in my research, I was like, hold the hell up. Because Ramsey talking about his fathers having some brotherhood with some people from that area, and I'm not trying to push nobody out no direction.
So when you say that area, you mean the Levant?
Up higher, because it would go into the Hittite area more.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Hattusha would be the Hittite capital, but we know is a language called Hattic that isn't related to the Hittite language. Therefore, we know with some people existing there before them Hittites. And they became the boss among the Hittites, called the House of Kheta, or Kemet. Now, in a quick Google, it's going to probably take you back to one of my documents. So if you put it, if somebody put that in Google Books, you'll be able to find that. But just the funny part is, the reason why I was so tipped off to it, because I'm going to come right here while we still in the text corpus and watch what happened. I'm going to put X capital T Keta. Keta, and probably a possible an A, right? And let's see if we can find Keta. It's probably a lowercase a. And this is going to say the Hittites. But we learned that the Hittites wasn't Keta. It was the people who was there before them. And Ramses basically said, look, we're going to stop because we had a fraternity. And the dudes' names is all Mari Silly and Mari Sali and all this stuff. Maybe I can't find Keta XTA. Let me see.
So while you're searching for that, I want to say, because I wanted to show, I have it in my presentation.
All right, well, real quick.
Okay,
sorry,
go ahead, brother.
It's right here. So it's going to attest to what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they didn't even call it what the Hittites wanted it called. They called it what the previous people who had got taken over called it. And look,
that's interesting.
So this H represents that KH sound. So that says cat. And this is Keta. And it says the land shot, which is Hatti, but it's really the land of the Hittites. And so you could continue. I just wanted to illustrate since it was on.
No, that's great because, like I said, I'm into politics now, right? So every once in a blue, I like to engage in these conversations. And although I'm rusty, as you're going along and bringing up things, certain things are clicking with me, even with the Hittites. And you just shared something new with me that, I may definitely look up because I want to go back and just go over all of my old research because I still want to present this stuff and I want to refine it. And in order to do that, I want to make sure that I'm presenting, I guess you could say, the best possible product. So one of the things that I wanted to do was show that connection between the Egyptians and the people of the Levant. And where am I right now? What did I just do? Oh, there we go. So in 2007, there was an article published, and I could pull it up if you need me to, but this was published in National Geographic News. Ancient Semitic snake spells deciphered in Egyptian pyramid. And according to the article, they had a hard time deciphering this particular spell. And then somebody had the bright idea to use the quote unquote Semitic alphabets, and they were able to decipher it. And I used to use this back in the days, right? Because I wanted to show this connection with the Moors that, according to some sources, were also present in the Levant. In the teachings of Noble Drew Ali, he speaks about how the Moors pretty much take over the northern parts of Africa, right? And, he's using certain terminology. I'm just trying to give abridged versions to it so nobody beat me up on it. But he's speaking to that extent. And when I looked up the history, I saw that there was this connection with the Moors in Egypt, and there was this connection with Egypt and the Levant. I can pull up one of my sources that the first blog I think I ever wrote back in 2010, where one of the kings is Ilarapi, I believe is his name. He's appealing to, I believe it's Akhenaten, and he's saying, this is the land of your forefathers from generations ago, right? And this was found in...
Right. That's 100% facts. Keep going.
Yeah, so I'm just like I said, I just want to pull some of this stuff together, and where we have points of contention, we can discuss, debate, etc., etc. And like I said earlier, I think it's edifying for the audience. And the brother jumped on your live, so I hope he gets on here, the Jamaican brother, and because he was saying what I was saying was pseudo, but I'm trying to present this stuff as a plausible and possible connection where the etymology fails us, where there's a gap in the etymology. And I think that that's fair for anybody to do, So, they talk about Baal, and it's, I'm not going to get into that right now. But
no, so I don't know how far you want to go into the snake spells dialogue, but our brother and teacher and Magi archer and renowned scholar Jed M. Ankh has just did a presentation at RC and at it was at I apologize, ASCAC on this, where he presented the world with a reinterpretation to show why these previous European scholars had fumbled and bumbled on that. And he rendered to us, and it's published. I'm asking for it now in our Discord. If y'all not, and you're welcome to join our Discord. It's the Magi Archers Discord. I
can't seem to get on there. Unc been trying to get me to come on. I got the app downloaded.
That's a different group with Unc, but with ours is the Magi Archers.
No, I'm talking about the app, period. I don't know why I can't join none of the discussion. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong.
Oh, well, we got a good group. But anyway, the brother definitely had provided up-to-date, qualified scholastic work showing that they made errors coming to the conclusion that you could not render these translations in ancient Egyptian. I'm asking for the paper now, and hopefully we can go over it.
No, so I'll bring up a question then. Are you saying that these translators may have gotten it wrong?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm saying that they most certainly did.
Got it wrong?
Because what they did is went out of the ancient Egyptian lexicon and tried to, since they couldn't find translations within the ancient Egyptian lexicon, they went straight to the a whole nother language. But our brother within the ancient Egyptian language just showed them which terms they missed and came up with a proper full-fledged sentence and presented it to scholars for academic critique.
Okay, share my screen real quick, Si, because if the brother is watching and you get that paper, I definitely want to see that, because this was the translation that they came up with. Mother Snake says, I'm going to assume that that's not mucus in the same way we may say mucus, but I mean, it's spelled mucus, so we got to say mucus, right? So I'm wondering how that looks on the backdrop of what your brother presented.
Well, I mean, it looks small to me right here.
Yeah, it's hard
to tell you. They got to be only talking about at least one of those 4 lines that we see. And just the one I'm reading, they possibly is trying to talk about maybe the top or the third line, because from my squinting eyes, you can see the second and fourth line start with the same statement, which is words said by. It says Jedon. You see a snake with a line under it on both of those, starting number 3 and number 4. So now I would want to know, I'm sorry, because this is your presentation. So that's the translation you got, but which one?
Yeah. And I've had this for like, I don't know. I've had this for like 13 years, bro. I pulled all this stuff up because we was having this discussion.
I'm about to put it on my screen so I can see it bigger. I got it on this other screen.
All right, cool. Let me see. As a matter of fact, what I can do, and it's probably still going to come out distorted. Let me see. Can I save it as an image? I can't.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting. Hopefully somebody going to give me that paper. I asked Jed, but he probably like, what paper you talking about? Forget it. Whatever. If it pop up, it pop up, but I ain't about to stress nobody about it.
Let me see. I'm going to see if I can. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to see if I can pull that up for you and blow it up so that you could get a better breakdown of it. All right, there you go.
Yeah, so I probably will be able to at least see what line they tripping with
this thing.
But mother snake.
All right, let's see. Hold on 1 second, bro. This joint is acting crazy on me. Yeah, there it goes, sir. I don't know if you can see that better, but it's definitely.
Yeah, I see it better. Yeah, I see it better.
So what you're saying is that one line was only like one line. That's not can't obviously be the whole.
Yeah, it's not all of this,
all
but
of these
I'm just trying
right
to identify what part they could be talking about, all right? And yeah. And so if we go with line W at the top, it starts with a term him. And then it got what it looks like a DMD. So if I open up my dictionary right now, and we probably heard the term him before. Under that 320, whatever, it looks like it's a H and then it's a him ball. So I'm thinking I don't see no determinatives for snakes or nothing even on that line. So I'm just trying to see, okay, what they using to discuss. And then it got in hecknet. It's like in a knee hecknet. So it would be like some type of a priest or something of hecknet. And then we got M hair. I mean, I'm not about to try to do that, but it says M hair.
No, I feel
you. That's something about incense up there on that. So I don't think that's it looked like Sasenu. I don't know what Sasenu is, but all of these terms, if we was going slow enough and people was willing,
I feel you.
In the dictionary and showing each one. The second line is something about words said by there's a K and then hella A's, basically. You know what I'm saying? Or oh no, I know what that is. This is Old Kingdom. This is words said by who. So this is words said by me, because that's a state of, maybe it's a state of use, and this is when you say ku. And then we see the 3 A's. So if you follow me on that second line, we see a snake and then something under it. That's words said by. That's also short for the sa.neter is jed on. Jed is to speak. Oh, so somebody gonna say, no, that's jed medu. Okay, fine, but I'm gonna work through both of them for you. It could either be jed on or jed medu. If it was jed on, then you know the medu was implied because it says said by. Medu means words. But this looks like it says jed medu, which says words said. This is jed medu because that's why that ku is after it. I said words. So, I mean, I can read part of the beginning of line 3, but this is why the other scholars couldn't come up with something, because I'm not trying to front. This ain't the easiest, you know.
No, I feel you. I mean, this is kind of on the fly, and I brought this up just to make a point. But you know, the fact that and we're updating information all the time. There's no need for anybody to be stuck anywhere, right? I came here willing to be educated on something and to see if my plausible theory was on the right track or if I was way off. I still don't think that I'm off. I still think that I'm on the right track because there's no etymological trace for the word Moor, but it had to have come from somewhere, right? We know that in the Romans used the word what was it, Morusi, Mori, Mauri is also an ancient rendering. But we see that MR, and it is consistent all the way up through the Romance languages, up until the English that we have now, and that this MR root is there. So, you know, that was one of the things that I wanted to share and shed some light on. And the reason why I brought that up, right, was because I was trying to find a trace and make correlations. Share this for me real quick, Sa. So one of the things that I did was I, looked up the tricontinental root Saline, right? And obviously we know that we find that tricontinental root in Shalom. We find that tricontinental root in Salam. So this is the research that I was doing. What we in 2025 now? So I was doing this research about 13 years ago, because I wanted to draw some correlation on if I can find certain words in the Egyptian dialect, lexicon, etc., and how they're related in the what we would call the Semitic tongues, which is why I looked up when it was my brother Ali, actually, shout out to my brother Ali, who looked up the word for Lord in the Aramaic and found that MR root word more or mara or mora, right? So I went through ancient Egypt and I looked obviously for Canaan, or what they have as Canaan in the hieroglyphics. Now, of course, we know Budge's dictionary and some of his breakdowns are problematic. So while I got you here, brother, would you say that this is and just off top, would you say that this is a good rendering of Canaan in the Egyptian glyphs? Or do you think Budge was stretching here?
I would say that.
Okay.
I would definitely say that. And it shows right there, it's in Papyrus Anastasia, the third one. Mm-hmm. So if anybody wanted to see that, that's where you can see those glyphs. But if you have those glyphs arranged as he has them arranged with the throw stick and then a foreign land, those two things indicate like foreign people in a foreign land. And so I would say that would possibly
Okay, because I remember, and I don't know if sa.neter remembers, we was on 125th Street outside of, I believe that was the Harriet Tubman School.
I remember.
It was at the Elder Say Cool. He was like, I think it was the Elder Say. That don't say.
He passed away too.
Oh, wow, man. Yeah. Condolences, man. Condolences. He was like, that don't say Canaan. I was like, well, this is what it says that it says. It says Canaan. I don't, right? But he was kind of debating with me on that, man. Rest in peace.
Yeah, but he beat you down bad too, though, Lord Abba.
No, I wouldn't say he beat me down bad because he was wrong on this.
He's a teacher, bro. Come on, man. I mean,
but I was showing him the same.
Yes,
he said it wasn't. He said it wasn't Canaan, right? And I'm gonna have to go back and look at that dialogue. I was kind of fresh back then, so he could have been. I don't know. I don't want to say he didn't beat me up. I would have to go back and look at that. That was damn. Yeah. What year was that? Sound like, jeez, 2010? God, I'm getting old. I'm definitely getting old. All right, so I wanted to show some correlation, right? So I looked for, obviously, in doing my research and being Islamically aligned and trying to draw these correlations. I looked into Murnitar Stele, and, searching for that tricontinental root, we find shalom or salam, and it refers to the word for peace. The Stele uses the Egyptian word that corresponds to the Semitic shalom, Hebrew, yada, yada, yada.
All right, so you off the MR root and now we're on the SLM root?
Yeah. So right now what I'm doing is I'm showing the reason why I pursued the path that I pursued with the MR root, right? Because we can't draw a direct correlation between Moor and really any of those ancient words, whether it be Lord in the Aramaic or any of the Moor forming words in ancient Egypt.
But real quick though, I'm gonna let you continue. And when we get back to this, we still ain't done that. We aware of that, right?
No doubt.
Search, right?
That's right. No,
okay,
that's right. That's right. So this is all I'm doing right now. And I'm just showing the why I went the path that I went with MR, right? And so I can look in the hieroglyphs and I can see this tricontinental root in the glyphs, because we know that those glyphs become the basis of what's known as the Semitic languages today. I remember I was debating Asa Imhotep, and he was like, this is a loan word. And I'm like, I don't know. You posting this, so I don't know if it's a loan word, right? That the Egyptians borrowed these ancient forms of the Semitic word and put it into their text. I don't know that for a fact. And I don't know if you're just saying that because you're just trying to prove me wrong. But I was trying to find consensus back then, right? It wasn't just about debating if it was this thing or if it wasn't that thing? Can we come to some consensus and say that there is a possibility that this thing is, or there's absolutely no way that this thing is? And everybody's position was there was absolutely.
What is this thing? What is this thing?
Say it again.
I'm trying to get your underlying premise. What are you trying to prove?
So, okay, that this MR root has for Moor that we have today.
SLM, or are you back to MR?
No, I'm back to, I'm explaining my underlying premise in general, right? Right here, I'm telling you why I went that route for the MR. I just did a comparative research. And so if I could find salam in the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs to greet, to salute, to offer salutations, to salam, to sue for mercy, then why wouldn't I go back into the ancient hieroglyphs and try to find this Moor root? Now, what brings me there, right? So let's get out of that. I go.
No, you gotta stay on that real quick.
Okay. No, let's go back. Okay.
Some of my people gonna be like, "Why didn't I address certain?"
Okay, go ahead.
I'm trying to be cordial, you know what I'm saying?
No doubt. Go ahead, brother.
We chilling. So, now this is another. The source is letting you down. The source is betraying you. It is because you're using budge, he's betraying you. And so the reason why is this term we can find if we take it right back to the text corpus, and if it pop up more than 2 times, I'll cash app you. Meaning, if this term, because I researched it hella times, if it pop up in the text corpus more than twice, I'll give you $5 for a coffee. You don't need it, but it'll be a coffee on me. Now, what I'm saying there is to say, the first time it was used on the Moor and Moabites stele, right? With some talk called a Merneptah stela, where they say is the first use of the term Israel also. So now we got these coming to questions. That's one of the first uses of it, and I think there was another use of it on I think all the Ramses was done by the time of Moor and Moabites. So the second use case of it was in a later time period. But my point is, with those limited uses of these terms, all the expansive definitions that Budge got for this term, even though you're on the right term, you're right. This dude lined up linguistically with SLM, but this is what I want to point out. There's not an ancient Egyptian connotation or no source material to substantiate that to the ancient Egyptian it meant to greet. You may say it meant to salute, but I want to get to why he got some of these weirder definitions on here. You may say it meant to offer salutations, but that will be with differentiated respect. Like a sucker saying what's up to you, or like, you know how your timid dog act around the dominant dog, that obese stance or whatever, that different the stance of the dog that's ducking his head is closer to use of this term charm or sharma here. So now the definition that reflects that here is to sue for mercy. That's right. If you go back to your other source, I'm gonna show you where it occurred, because you did have a Moor and Moabites stela sort. You had some quotes from it up there. So this one. That English up there, I think. All right. This one. This right here. Okay. Now notice. The metal nature word SLM is right there, shalom, right? But look at the context, and you tell me the only context we can take from the one attestation that we can see is clearly they're suing for peace. That's right. That's right. Because it says all the princes prostrate. So they didn't say, "Oh, what's up, my homie? Peace," like on equal footing. They literally laid on the ground. To prostrate is to lay on the ground. And then they said shalom, which is more like a stall me out. You know what I'm saying? Stall him out, bro. Don't mess with them and show them, they're showing you differentiated respect. So if we read the whole text, it says the princes, real quick, It says the princes are prostrate saying shalom or salam.
Mhm.
No one of the 9 bowls lift his heads.
I see.
So the 9 bowls are, we know, the enemy of Egypt. So those
That's right.
people saying shalom got their head down, they land on the ground. And this is why I said Budge is betraying you, because he included some Semitic uses of the term, which is to greet, which is true. But this is a long word to the ancient Egyptians. When we look it up, it means they didn't encounter it till they heard other people saying it. And when they heard people saying it, those people was giving them differentiated respect. You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely. And I agree. And see, this is why I think these discussions are so important, because I believe that's what's being shown in these glyphs, right? Brother Smash, you have the man with raised hands. It's kind of a stance of benediction. And then at the very last glyph, we see what appears to be a brother bowing down. Now, you know how to break these down better than me, but is that what you're getting from what they're presenting in these glyphs, or what Budge is presenting?
So what you just pointed out, and you seem to know it, and the people can notice too, what Abba's doing is looking at the determinatives to understand the category of the word. See, the determinative isn't going to define the word. So any of us who know human gestures can look at these gestures and almost determine, like, even hands up right now, all we do that to is the police. I'm just keeping it a buck. You feel me? So that's saying differentiated respect. You see what I'm saying? And then you see them praising the ground, so to speak, and then one raising. This is another. It's called hai or ha. It is a stance for praise. So if all of the determinatives, which help us know what the category of the term is, we kind of get, okay, something about praise, obeisance, but there's one more daunting rendition of this. It carries what they call Gardner A5, and Alan Gardner classified this determinative as the cowering man. Now, funny, Budge is being so expansive here. He says he has 1, 2, 3. Remember, I said it's only in 2, but right now he's saying he got 3 of them.
Three references. That's why when you said the 2, I was about to say, I don't know. Budge got 3 on here, so I don't know if you know how that shakes out.
No, I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna wind up shaking. These 3 is going 2 of these, because he's looking at other scholars. 2 of these other scholars probably gonna be looking at the same text.
The same, okay, I see.
But I'm not far off. I said 2. If he got 3, then I owe you a coffee. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so
now we just gonna use it to educate the people. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah.
So this next glyph, and I would love to hear your breakdown on this, because I believe, let me see. So this is
Israel Stella.
That's right. That's right. So, and I, my research showed that this wasn't definitive. Did your research say the same? That
main definitive that it actually meant like it was a cognate with shalom?
No, with Israel.
Oh no, Israel is definitely not definitive.
Oh, it's definite. Okay, I've seen some things.
Shalom is definitive.
Okay. Because I've seen some things with Israel back in, man, like I said, I was putting this stuff together like 12, 13 years ago. There was some people that kind of, I don't want to say refute, they questioned if Israel was what's being transliterated here.
Yeah, I did some good research on this, and I worked with some of the good, really people, and I was telling them to beat my theories up, and I can't get past them, so I haven't presented it publicly. But I got another translation for that. The only thing is, when we go to, it makes me force this other word called winnie, right? Win is a common ancient Egyptian word, but we often see it in the winnie form. We don't often see it in the winnie form. And so I can't really tell people, but if we start looking at the sa.neter of that, it says Syria. It literally says Syria, like right after that. And I'm proposing that those people that they're talking about are some people of Syria. But if I showed you this, you wouldn't even believe it. You would think it was so pseudo. I'm gonna start.
Well, first and foremost, I wouldn't know to call it pseudo, so I would have to analyze it, right? And I'm not necessarily in that mode anymore. And that's why I wanted to come on here, because I'm not trying to do anything pseudo, regardless. Yeah, I'm not trying to do nothing pseudo. So when the brother said that, I'm like, what? I was just trying to show the connection in the debate that we were having. And even with the issue of blackness, right? There was a reason why I went the way that I went in that debate with Inky. I showed the black coffee. She's like, it's not black, it's brown. How do we get black coffee?
But you know what, though, bro? You're going to lose that completely. You might not even bring up black right now, because I'm super the black defender. Like ancient Egypt, the first term, we wasn't saying no more, but I can show you hundreds of texts where we was calling ourselves, by no doubt, and scholars agreeing that we were calling ourselves black. But not black, but you define the darkest hue in many languages. In whatever language you use to define the darkest hue, sometimes they talk about black people in that language. Ancient Egyptians in their language, when defining the darkest hue, they said Kim. And that's the root to Kemet. But I can show you personal names and people who was called Kim all over the place. So we called ourselves black.
Look, let me say, I've seen some of the research, and I've seen the rebuttals. I've seen Brother Wu Zhao's rebuttals to
That's
some
why
of.
He ain't to be found. I blew him off the internet.
I know Wu Zhao listening right now. I know he's saying that's not true.
He's gone. He don't do the internet no more. He got
do the internet. You ran him off the interwebs.
They got to teaching people that Kemet didn't mean black. So I would, don't even go that way.
Now, see, I'm not gonna go there with that. But insofar as superimposing our understanding of race today onto ancient Egypt, I will debate that all day.
Yeah, that's right, because that's where you're going to win. Because we know not to do that. Because we know not to do that. And so we teach people, look, we the way I say it is they talking about physical appearance. And mostly they be talking about individuals. But if you got the physical appearance of so many individuals, them individuals, you're eventually going to address them as a group. When addressing people's physical appearance, they would indeed call them just black by the ancient Egyptian terms. I don't want to throw you off. Keep presenting. I'm a mute.
No doubt. So this is the last. No, definitely. So this is what I want to do.
Grabbing the water, yeah.
No, I got you, and that's why I wanted to have the discussion, right? And I thought about this even before I called sa.neter. I was like, I want to have a discussion. We beat each other up all the time, and debates are good. Don't get me wrong. I love debating. I just think debating brings something out of you, especially if you're honest and you're debating somebody that's honest and they're not trying to lie and twist up your words and all of that stuff. When I'm debating someone like that, those debates are always great. And I really just wanted to have a discussion. This is what I wanted to do back in the days. I wanted to have bills with Asa Imhotep on certain things, but because they had a particular blind spot, because they were so anti-Islam, everything got filtered through that, right? I'm anti-Islam, so I'm going to filter everything through this particular seed. And so all of it is bad, even the bits and pieces of it that may be good. I'm just going to toss all of it out, right? The palladium, the platinum, the nickel, et cetera, et cetera. And that's, for me, and looking at our people and our education and all of the different things that we've learned, I never thought that was a good idea. Conscious community should be, and this is my opinion, used as a crucible where we're putting all of our rocks into, if you will, refining our information through debates and proper methodological research using scholarly formats in our presentation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm glad that you agreed to have this discussion with me, brother, because it was warranted. So this is from, and I'm going to wrap up with this, why I went to the SLM. So now I'm kind of bringing it back to the MR. And one of the things that I noticed in this book, Ancient and Modern Britons, I haven't read this book in so long. All of this is old research, y'all, was that the term Moor was interchangeable with the Egyptian, with Egyptian, excuse me. in European literature, right? Or in how they spoke about our people. So let me see, where do I want to start here? And the poet who describes the Edinburgh life of the same period states that, quote, to bring in the Moors was an ordinary finish to an evening's gaiety. So that although Peter the Moor is perhaps the only one of the royal minstrels whose complexion is plainly visible to us, yet we may quite reasonably conclude that Jamie Wotherspoon, Hogg the Jester, Thomas the Jester, and two unnamed telltellers who received the royal tip of 9 shillings apiece, that all these were as much Moors and Egyptians as any of their contemporary junglers or reeds blackamoors. And thus, since the Moors or jesters, I may have missed one of my screenshots there, so y'all forgive me on that one. And thus, since the Moors or jesters who served St. Clown in the eating bird of circa 1500, and those professed pleasants and fancy fools who were suffered to vague and wander throughout the whole country were really of the race of Egyptians or Moors, it does not become necessary to look back at the astonishing yada, yada, yada. And here's the last quote on that. It says, in Europe, I'm reading my caption. But this is a direct quote from the book Ancient and Modern Britons from page 143. It says, and again, the ugly Moors of heraldry with their black skins, thick lips, and pearl pendant are virtually the same as the earringed, black, and hideous Egyptians who trooped into Bologna about 5 centuries ago. So these are direct. Say it again.
Can I comment on that?
Oh yeah, of course. I want to hear your breakdowns to some of this stuff, because this is old information for me.
When we use periodization, when we present our source material, it's easier to see what part of the argument I'm disagreeing with and what parts I agree with. These sources, after you showed the yellow book, all are talking about from a time period where, and the use of the term Moor is, kind of damn near like they saying black people. I know you don't want to agree with that all the way, but
no, that's a fact. No, that's
and the time period we're in, this is. I gotta attest that this is a good source material to show that at the time when English was talking about this, that Egyptians were still black. But before you showed the yellow book, everything we was talking about was dealing with ancient Egypt, not quote unquote neo-modern, quasi-modern Egypt or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right.
So I'm just saying that these sources is good for showing, that Moors during that time period had something to do with Egypt, but before you showed the yellow book in the earlier time period, this has nothing to do.
I see what you're saying. So what I was doing, and I respect your opinion, right? So what I was doing was building out my theory, right? So all of this, and there's a bunch of stuff that I don't have in here, direct references from Egyptologists, and I don't know how much of a respected Egyptologist Mustafa Gadala is. He wrote a book called Egyptian Romany, but I was able to, say it again.
He okay. I know he got one book people don't like, but in that book, he said all that stuff came from Nubia, right?
I don't know. Is it? So I'm not sure if that's in the book Egyptian Romany.
Archaeology or something like that.
He does. I've never reviewed that book.
Okay, but keep going. I don't want to keep cutting you off.
Yeah, definitely. In that book, Egyptian Romany, he breaks down how the Moors, almost verbatim with what Jerumasi says in his book. I can't think of the title at the moment. Not Jerumasi, excuse me. Not Jerumasi, I'm bugging. What's the scholar that spoke about the Moors kept up? George G.M. James, Stolen Legacy. And in the book Stolen Legacy, George G.M. James states that the Moors kept up constant contact with ancient Egypt. Now, as a standalone, that type of information is hard for us to prove, right? Because he doesn't really give us any substantiated or substantiating references to that effect in that book, or at least what my memory can remember. But when I do a comparative analysis with what Mustafa Gadala states in his book of Egyptian Romany, he states that the Moors were in fact connected with ancient Egypt. Again, I'm building out my theory that that term Moor that we can't find an etymological trace for is possibly the same that we find in ancient Egypt. Not stating that definitively.
Because you're allowed in all type of research, we're allowed to have our hypotheses, whether they're popular or not. But the thing is, and I think it's Shamaka Kieta who said it, you got to make that hypothesis work. It has to work. And the reason why they working is because of this big missing link. Like if Moor meant more in the time period of the Arab invasion or the Islamic incursion coming into Egypt, and we could go before that. We can go before that. I know you could go before that, about 1 or maybe 1 AD or something around then, right? But that's a long drop from 3200 BC when we just seen the first Emi was called a Moor written on a rock.
I see what you're saying. I definitely, and I'm not going to disagree with that because I can't. And you are absolutely correct. It is a gap between the basis where I'm trying to possibly connect these words that seem to appear in not just different languages, but different areas that represent the same thing. Even when I put Merowe into the AI, right? And I know you could probably give a better breakdown because you have a better tool that I'm going to start utilizing from now on, right? And but Merowe, or what we would call the ancient land of Moreau, it also tied that MR to that MR root that I was discussing or hypothesizing in the AI bot. All right, so, and that's all I was trying to do. I'm just trying to show that in it, there is this connection. And that leads to the last part or the last leg of this discussion. And I'm not going to get too deep into this, but that's the Moabite part. Because in your paper, you obviously, and you should have, because I did when I first read it, went at the connection between, right, Moabites and the Moors. And I could read it verbatim if you like from your paper. And that's why I wanted to add this in there, because one of the things that Mustafa Gadala shows, and I've cross-analyzed this with several medieval sources, was that the Moabites were in fact connected to the Moors that ruled Europe. So I want to read this quote from H.T. Norris's book, The Berbers in Arabic Literature. And he says this. This is on page 15. There were other Moors. They were the Saharans of Sahelian Takroris. They were not fictitious, and Christendom knew them by a biblical name, the Moabites. Ishmaelites were the Muslims of Spain, while the Arab Bedouin Berber. Moabites were the Almoravids, who, although Sanhaja Berbers from the Sahara, also claimed to be descendants of the Himyarite Arabs of the Yemen. Now, I have so many other sources.
The said something different, but I'm sorry. Moabites were the who?
The Moors, the same as the Moors.
The source says Moabites were the, and you said a different word than the source said.
I'm confused. Let me just read it again.
Right there, read. Moabites were the, it's like 4 sentences down.
Oh, where it says Moabites were the Almoravids?
Yeah, that's what you said. Oh, all right.
Yeah, yep. Now, in my research, it shows that because there's no link, you can't necessarily connect it linguistically through the etymology, but I have several pieces and I can pull them up that shows that Al-Moravid, Al-Morav means the Moab. Because when you're looking,
what did we learn historically about the Almoravids? Where did they come from? They came from like Northwest Africa.
Well, now, so this is where we could have a broader discussion. Right now, based on this source, these Almoravids, which set up the first kingdom of, no, not the first kingdom. I believe they started around 1000 AD. So I don't want to say the first kingdom of Islamic kingdom. I could be off. It's been a while since I looked at this stuff, so y'all forgive me.
They the ones who came in and smashed on Tariq Ibn Nazir and them after they took over. I think Moors had Spain for like 200 years before the Almoravids came in as fundamentalists. Like, what the hell is y'all doing? And why y'all letting the Jews live amongst y'all and start coming and slapping them up? So in my time period, it's close to about what you said, about 900, 800 AD. But I'm not an authority at all on the subject. I'm just doing studies, yeah. My point is, I don't see them having to be the. How could you tie that to the Moabites? And you could let me know.
Right. All right. So I've presented on sa.neter's channel, and that's why I didn't add all of those extra sources. Right. Over the years, I've done several presentations on sa.neter's channel, and in my discussion with Ankh the other day, I can't remember what the hell I said, but Ankh was like, "Man, Ab, I never heard you say that, Ab." And all the years we've been going back and forth, I was like, "I know you never heard me say that." I was like, because y'all wasn't really listening to me, right? And we had a discussion about that right there.
All right. Yeah. Ready to open up the platform, see if y'all got some questions, and then we out of here, y'all.
All right. So all right. Jumping I
don't want to be up all night, man.
Remember, I got you.
Yeah. Okay, so Smash, y'all good? You all right?
I'm chilling right here.
All right, Rock Hufu. What's up, man? You in the building? You have a question?
Family. Peace. To Lord Abba. So
what's going on?
Lord Abba. All right, what's up, family? You know where Jarbel Barco, I messed that up. The first Homo sapien in Morocco, the black man that they made the picture of him or the model.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Okay, that was a Moor in the sense of being from a Moorish country. He's an Aboriginal. He's like the oldest bone there. But would you say up around that Mediterranean area, all those people knew each other at one time, all the way to Egypt?
During that time, or you got to be more time specific?
I mean, from that time coming forward, have we just been things wiped out or things not found yet to substantiate the connection?
That's a tough one. That's a tough question to answer, brother.
All right,
that's a tough question to answer.
All right, that's it. That's all my questions, sir. Oh, peace, brother Jonathan.
7, cam up, man. Cam up, 7. 7, cam up.
I don't see. Oh.
7 to saw, cam up. 7 to saw, cam up. All right, 7, you got a question. Unmute yourself.
More a statement than a question, man. I just want to say that this bill was a good bill. It was a breath of fresh air to see brothers applying knowledge to, through their wisdom for us to gain some understanding. It just showed the superior research of Lord Abba, because even though me and Lord Abba may have some differences, I still give props to him. He's a great researcher, and he presents strong arguments. You know what I'm saying? And of course, Brother Smash rocks. My brother Smash always knocks it out the park every time I see him present anything. So I appreciated this bill. You know, it wasn't people going back and forth arguing about ambiguous scripture. So I appreciate this bill, Brother Thaw, and I think we need more discussions like this. Discussions trying to bring some understanding and some scholarship to a topic versus trying to see who's right or wrong.
All
That's
right.
all I have to say.
Let me get on over to Mr. Apostle Saquon is in the building.
Hey, thanks, sir. Thanks. It was a good discussion here. Y'all go back and forth. Very pleasant.
Honest.
Unlike in a debate where, you know, this was very, I hear both sides. Smash always enlighten my understanding, you know, bring information like that. Lord Abba, you know, the only thing I can say about Lord Abba is this constant attempt to associate Moab with Moors. Moors is,
I thought you was going to say with Kemet, man.
well, no, man.
Yeah, he always associate the word Moor or MR in Kemet, brother.
But he also associated with Moab.
Right, correct.
He shortens it by saying Moab. Like he gonna put that aura instead of saying Moab, he's gonna say Moabites. You know, but it ain't no Moor bite. It's Moab. Moab started with Abraham's nephew, Lot, when his daughters had sex with him. One had a child that was called Moab, and the other one had a child that was called Ammon. And that's where these nations came from. This is about around 23 to 2100 BC. There were no Moors. As a matter of fact, there was no Spain. Spain, before it became Spain, it was called Tarshish. And that was about before BC. Spain didn't come about until after AD. So, I mean, we know that before Muhammad, there's no Islam. Excuse me, I don't need to get excited. I can say this very calmly. Before Muhammad, there's no Islam. So there's no more before Muhammad. So stop associating the Moors with Moab.
All right, let him respond. Let him respond.
All right, share my screen real quick, sir. I'm gonna run through this real quick. So, and while I'm doing that, right, when you write out the word Moab or Moav, those are the two transliterations out of the Hebrew. One of the things that we note is that there's an elision there, Apostle. I don't know if you know what an elision is, but it's like an apostrophe that fills in the space between two words. It connects two portions of a word. And that elision can be a phoneme, which represents the smallest possible pronunciation of that word. And based on my research shows that that elision is filled with an R. In Africa, and I can pull that up in a few minutes, we see that that elision is filled with the Z. So give me 1 second. Let me run through this real quick. So this is from the Victors and the Vanquished, because I'm going to come with my sources. Christians and Muslims of Catalonia and Aragon, and this is between the years 1050 and 1300. This is by Brian A. Catlos on page 67. It says, when the native Muslims of Al-Andalus rose up in rebellion against the Almoravids in the middle of the 12th century, their animosity was of such fervor that it provoked comment in Castilian chronicles. With dramatic license, one such chronicle gave voice to Andalusi discontent. Quote, the Moabites eat of the fat of the land and our properties. They carry off gold and silver from us, oppress our wives and children. Therefore, let us fight them and kill them and cast off their domination from us. So we know that you have Christians that don't like these Almoravids, and you have certain Muslims that don't like these Almoravids, just like Brother Smash just broke down. Let me continue. The recognition of this distinction was no mere literary conceit, and translated into practical terms in the surrender document of Tudela 1115, which admitted the difference between local Muslims and Almoravites. The same distinction was made at Tortosa, where the Christian powers promised And if the Almoravids do any ill to the Christians who are among them or in their lands, the men of Tortosa will not do any ill on that account. This is, I have so many of these different sources that I could go through, but I'm going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to try to get through them. So this is from A Panorama of Nations, or Journey Among the Families of Men. This was published in 1892. This is from page 184. It says, the great cause of this animosity is found in the assertion which the Jews have made for ages, that the Moabites, and yeah, this is in Algeria, all this stuff is coming back to me, are the Moabites, who conquered Israel and were conquered in turn by the Babylonians, whom they assisted, yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to scroll down here where it says, it has been a custom of the Moabites for several ages after performing the pilgrimage to Mecca to go to this country in order to visit their acknowledged brethren. In the Library of Congress, and you all can look this up right now, just so you know, like, I don't do BS. I don't do cap. And if Apostle ever wants to have that debate on if Moor is connected to Moab, I guarantee you I will mop the floor with this guy. But this is in the Library of Congress. Types Algerian, Moabite, summary. Moabite Berber man, half-length portrait standing facing Algeria, and it was created between the years of 1860 and 1890. The link is there. I can leave it up for a few minutes. Y'all can take a screenshot if y'all are on your phone, and y'all can pull it up, and this same exact image is going to come up. So I'm not making up nothing. Moab does not come from the incestuous relationship between Lot and his daughters. This is a fanciful story that the biblical codex writers created for the purposes of degradation. How do you bring this group into your story? Because we know that the Misha Stela exists and other artifacts that I put in my paper that shows that Moab was a real people. And so now the biblical codex writers cannot ignore that this is a real people. And so they introduce Moab and Ammon or Ben-Ami into their text as the shameful offspring of incest by a story that is so hard to believe that it could only be believable in that European's Bible. And let me say, there's no men in all the land, right? Because this is what their Bible says, sa.neter, that Lot's daughters conspire with each other against their father Lot, that there is no man in all the earth who would come in unto us. Now, we know we could get into the Hebrew translation, and it says the land still is hard to believe. But in the English translation, it says, there's no man in all the earth who would come in unto us. Come, let us get our father drunk and lay with our father so that we could have seed by him and preserve our nation. I'm paraphrasing, but Apostle know that I'm almost verbatim saying what it says.
All right.
Hold on. Think. I want everybody to think about this, right? Because this is how crazy some of the biblical stories are. The first daughter, tricks Lot into drinking like a fish, so much so that Lot is so drunk that he forgets that this is his daughter right here, and she seduces Lot, and he sleeps with her. Then no hangover, no nothing. The very next night, the next daughter tricks Lot, who, according to their book and their theology, is a righteous man who would have followed the laws. And one of those laws would be anti-drunkenness, right? Which is one of the reasons why their God destroys their world back in their days, and then Noah gets right off the ark, plants a vineyard, and gets pissy drunk. Now, I could go in, but you don't know what I'm talking about, sir?
No, I know what you're talking about. I'm surprised you know about this.
Oh, no, like I always say, I can give a breakdown of the Bible that a lot of people have never heard. But this is how Moab and Ben-Ami come into existence. And when you look up the biblical codex writer's definition of what Moab means, of his father, it makes absolutely no sense using the Hebrew. So Apostle is here. And if he ever wants to have that debate, you know, I'll take a little easy walk in the park and dust him off on that.
Well,
Light work.
first of all,
Hey, hold up. Hey, Apostle, let me just tell you, brother, be careful, man. Lord Abba ain't the one, brother. Lord Abba's not the one. Just be careful what you wish for, man.
Not on this subject. Not on this subject.
Not on this subject, brother.
yeah,
I hear
Not when you talking about the Moors, brother. Just leave that alone, man.
Yeah,
he need
To the Hebrew.
to stick to the Moors.
Stick to the Hebrew, brother.
And I'm going into Hebrew because in the ancient Hebrew there is no V letter, so you can't. That's modern Hebrew.
that's not what I said, brother.
No, you said Morva. You
I
added
said
a
when
V.
Can I just
Man. You
correct
can go back to the paperwork. There's a M. There's a AL MO R AV word that you come out Morva, whatever you were saying about these people that then came from Moab to some other stuff you're talking about. Now, maybe there were some other people called Moabites, MORAB, maybe, but there was no other people called MOAB, Moab. Like that country Moab that was right smack dead in the middle of Israel. Okay? It was right smack dead. And they never conquered Israel. Excuse me. As a matter of fact, their land was conquered. That's the reason why we were living there. Because their land had been conquered and divided. Okay? They never conquered us. So stop that. We know who conquered us. Starting with Egypt.
that's not my claim. I read the source, brother.
So stop. Just let me finish, man. I didn't say a word while you was talking.
Oh my God.
I didn't say a word. So, I mean, to come to and talking about drunkenness, there was no law against drunkenness in Noah's day or in Abraham's day. Okay? You find that in the New Testament. About
all right, Apostle. Let me move on. Let me get somebody.
You cut me off, man.
You don't know how to stop.
It was not a sin when Noah got drunk. There was no, he didn't sin. There was no law or commandment against him drinking. So stop that, man. You don't know what you're talking about.
All right, so, Sa, I'm going to be very brief, Sa.
Yeah, right.
There was a law, right? There was a law. You know why? You know that? Look, this is because it says in your Bible why the earth was destroyed. In your Bible. And drunkenness was one of those things.
No, it wasn't. Show it to me. Show it to me. There was no mention about drunkenness. What are you talking about? Go to the 6th chapter of Genesis and show it to me.
That silence made people think we offline, huh?
No, I guess. I mean, I'm waiting on.
All right. Hey, Jose, what's up, man? What's up? Your camera always toe up, Jose. What's up? Jose, what's up, man? Your camera's always messed up, man. All right, Jose can't hear.
He's muted.
All right,
unmute yourself, Zay.
Next time, bro.
All right, we got to move on.
Hey, I will tap in next time, Si. I don't know.
Right, hey, thank you. Hey, anybody got any questions for Smash before you go?
Yeah, I was going to throw one at him, but go
Yeah,
ahead,
I'd like
man.
to hear Smash.
We'll pop on in a few, fam.
I'd like to hear Smash on his view.
All right, let me bring in Brother Lot.
Oh, I'm tripping. I got something going viral right now out in the hip hop world on Instagram. Check it out. It's called 100 men versus one gorilla. Just look at that on Instagram. That's going viral right now. I went and put a rap down to that. I should play it on your show side. It's going viral, but you don't
send me the beat. I'll put a verse on it.
I don't want no content.
Hey, son, I'm live.
All right, so let me just say to Apostle, I was wrong. That's not one of the reasons why the earth was destroyed. I'm trying to go off memory, right? So, and I can admit that I was wrong on that one.
And you're wrong on all of it, man. But
no, I'm not. Because let's set the debate up.
I bet you I'm not wrong. Your whole association.
I bet you can't disprove what I presented about Moab.
Your whole you're talking about a difference in about 1,500 years between any Moor and a Moabite. You're talking the difference of 1,500 years.
No, I'm not.
Before the Moabites became distinguished. Okay?
So
go ahead, man.
All right. So are you saying that you believe that Lot's daughters got him drunk on back-to-back nights, so much so that they raped them, because that's technically what they did. They date raped them, got pregnant, and then produced Moab and Ben-Ami? Is that what you're saying you believe?
I don't know about no Ben-Ami. It was Ammon.
Amen. I mean, the other word name is Ben-Ami. That's another of the trick. That's
Moab and Ammon. Period. Those two sons.
Okay, Moab and Ammon. Let's stick. Do you believe that that's what happened?
Yeah, I believe what the Bible says.
So then you could never prove me wrong then.
Well, okay.
Set up the debate, y'all.
That's what I believe. What the Bible says. Okay? Just like Smash mentioned the Hittites, I can show that the Hittites came from Ham. Okay, came from Ham. The Hittites, the Jebusites, all of them. It doesn't matter.
The problem with
you where every race.
I know, brother.
From all three of those brothers.
So the problem with y'all's theory, y'all's biblical theory.
Lord Abba, you give up too quick, though.
I don't. There's people on the stage. I could go in. I'm trying to keep the combo moving.
Apostle, can you go to Galatians 19? Galatians 5, 19 to 21. And read that for us. Lord Abba, stop giving up so fast, brother.
Oh, you talking about on a drunken thing?
I understand. I said the Old Testament.
Can you go to it, Lord Abba?
I was clear.
Can you go to
it?
Apostle.
I was clear.
God damn, man.
I was clear in what I said.
Go to the scripture, brother.
I'm going to. I was clear in what I said.
Okay, just go to the scripture.
All right. 5 and what? 5 and
Galatians 5, 19 to 21 and read.
Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are of these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, and lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, and sedition and heresy. What else you want me to read?
Keep going to 21.
Even murder, drunkenness, rivaling, and such like.
All right, you read it. Drunkenness is a part of that. That's what Lord Abba was saying.
It's in the New Testament. I said Old Testament.
Oh,
he was talking about why.
Okay.
You don't listen.
Okay.
You don't listen.
I thought
you don't listen
in the Bible.
It was in the New Testament.
Oh, I thought you were saying it wasn't in the Bible. But even this right here is deep, because I just learned something. It talked about hatred, and that's all y'all Israelites are. Y'all deal with hatred, and it's telling you that that's not even good. It's telling you that that's not good, Apostle. What do you think about that?
I'm not dealing. What are you talking about hatred? I'm not dealing with I don't operate in hatred. What are you talking about?
Wow. You call the white man.
You operate in hatred.
You call the white man the Edomite, right?
That's not hatred.
You was going in on
Bible. The Bible calls him that. That's not hatred.
All right, now listen. You said the Bible calls him that. Are you?
The Bible calls it out. I done told you not.
What? Let me talk. Are you willing to stand on that and debate the topic that the Edomites are in the Bible? You can prove that. Can you prove that in the Bible, Apostle?
That
white people are Edomites.
That the white people are Edomites.
I done told you 100 times. I believe not all white people are Edomites. I told you that.
Yeah, you straddling the fence with that, man.
I'm not straddling no fence. I'm only telling you,
not all.
I'm only telling you what I believe. I'm only telling you what I believe.
I'm gone, sa.neter.
And we tell.
Hey, yo, Smash, man. Good discussion, brother, man.
Good build.
Definitely.
Everybody. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm out of here. Y'all tap in with my channel after this show.
And stop lying on me, man. Stop lying. You don't have to.
All right, brother Smash.
I say enough that you can use against me. Then
So let's ask a question. I got two for my brother, Lord Abba.
Brother La, I'm calling on Brother La.
Oh, Brother La?
Yeah, y'all both Muslims. Brother La and Lord Abba, y'all Muslims. So let's get it. Come on, man.
I pay it no mind, Lord Abba, as you should pay it no mind. Pay it no mind, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, brother, man.
The question I have for you is this. I'm not going to dig in more so into sa.neter. You could take me off of the line. You could take me off of the screen, sa.neter. The question I have for you is more so not in regards for the name or the title Moor, because that'll take us down another rabbit hole. What would be the derivative country out of the 26 countries in North Africa that they derive from? That's what I want to know.
So that's a great question. Hold on. Let me pull this up real quick. Let me just pull this up real quick. Because and that question is hard to answer, just to be clear. But I want to pull this image up. Let me see if I can pull it. All right, so Sa, share this real quick. My research shows that those people.
Indiana beat Cleveland the first game, y'all. God damn, this is crazy. Indiana beat Cleveland and at the home court.
I don't care.
Wow.
I don't care about that.
Yeah, share my screen, Si. So, right, remember I was citing a man by the name of H. Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So H.T. Norris says in his book, The Berbers in Arabic Literature, there were other Moors. They were the Saharans of the Sahelian Takroris, right? They were not fictitious, and Christendom knew them by a biblical name, the Moabites. So when you look up the Sahel region, which we see highlighted as a strip going from the west coast of Africa to the east coast of Africa, my research shows that these people trekked between these regions. This particular group of people, they formed the Takror kingdom in 1000 AD, which then goes on to become the Almoravids, who invade Spain after the initial Moors go into Europe. So I can't pinpoint one country of where Moab comes from. But when I'm looking at it, yeah, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry for breaking your train of thought. I apologize.
No, go ahead, brother. That's all I really wanted to, like, this is where the research has taken me. So you see, it's not stuff that's coming from my own mind. These are renowned scholars. That brother H.T. Norris has about 12 books that he's written on the topic of Islam, Arab, Berbers, Moors, etc., etc.
All right. So would it be safe to say that we can narrow it down to Chichino, and Tamu?
You can say Jehenu, right? If I'm pronouncing it correctly,
No.
and say that these were the Libyans.
Yes.
My own right, like this is starting to come back to me because we're talking about it. So I got a lot of research that ties the Libyans to the Berbers. And we know that the Berbers are, in fact, the Moors. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can go with that. And, I wouldn't draw a definitive conclusion, but I will say that based on, that weighty preponderance, that you could tie those people back to the Berbers and say that the Libyans and the Berbers are possibly the same people of the same bloodline.
You got to be careful when you say bloodline, brother. You got to be careful.
I know.
Real careful when you say bloodline.
I know.
These Hebrew Israelites, they'll
I
take it
know.
and
My
run
man
with
Apostle
it.
My man Apostle on here. No,
Son,
definitely.
Can I share my screen to show you the land of Moab?
That's what the biblical scholars say.
Let me bring Gideon in first, man, before we go through that. Gideon ain't speaking.
My man Gideon.
Shalom.
Wow.
All praise to the Most High in the name of Yahshua. What's going on, Lord Abba? How y'all doing, man? To the other people on the panel.
Peace, brother, man.
So I ain't gonna be long in what I'm about to say. So, yeah, what's good, I saw. So this is what I'm gonna say. Like, from what the general consensus of scholarship say about the Moors from the so-called Middle Ages, that was an appellation that was given to them. That's not something that they called themselves. They came from different countries, because a lot of these different nations and countries we see today, like Morocco, Mauritania, Algiers, these countries wasn't even in existence during those times. So when you're looking at Moors, that was something that the European called us. So within those Moors, you had Arabs and you had Jews. So the Moors were basically the people that were the front line of the economic trade in Africa when they dealt with Europe, because they was the conquerors of Spain. They taught the Cro-Magnon in Spain how to bathe and how to eat and, basically how to be civilized. So they were the people at that front line. So they were the slave traders. They was the people that initiated the slave raids into Africa to bring us over here. Like I said, those was Arab, Muslims, and Jews. So with that being said,
give us a source.
So we about to get there. So with that being said, Lord Abba, I'll kill a Moor doctrine for fun, but on sa.neter stage, I'm gonna carve you up real nice right quick. So let me ask you this. You're trying to connect the Moabites with the Moors, right? What does the Moabite say about their origin? Because you're disputing the biblical origin. What does the Moabite origin say?
So first you got a lot wrong. You got to mute out though, because you got to. Okay, so you got a lot wrong. Starting with the etymology of Moor, when you say that this is something that white people called us, that right there lets me know that you're disqualified to even be in the discussion. When you're looking at the ancient artifacts outside of y'all's biblical worldview, we see that the ancient Moabites worshipped Chemosh, because I know that that's where you're going. It's the same argument that Hebrew Israelites have been making towards me for years, as if people can't worship other gods, that people can't convert into other religions, etc., etc. So because Moabites worshipped Chemosh by name back in those days, and they are in correlation with the Moors that go into Spain and take over. And these are sources that I'm reading, directly translated from medieval texts, directly. Doesn't mean that somehow, because those Moors then that worship Allah can't be the same as the Moabites because they worship Chemosh. That's a very, very bad argument. You muted, brother.
I was muted.
Okay, there you go.
What you were saying about the Middle Age scholars, quote a source. You don't have to like give us the book number and the page number, but give us a medieval text that's connecting the Moors to the Moabites from an accredited person.
All right, I read. You gotta just mute real quick, bro. All right, so I read from several sources. So here's a source I'm going to read. This is The World of El Cid, Chronicles of the Spanish Reconquest by Simon Barton, page 218. All of these books that I'm referencing are translating the medieval sources. So let me read this. Mustering the army of Toledo and Castile, both knights and foot soldiers, he went to the land of the Moabites and the Hagarenes and carried out many massacres, started many fires, and took many prisoners. He captured much gold and silver, precious garments, and all of the beasts of the field. I'll read that. Hearing this news, King Tashafin was angry. Now, if you know the history of the Moors, then you know about those battles between the Christian hordes and King Tashafin. That's if you know this history. But let me finish reading. Hearing this news, King Tashafin was angry and gathered together all his friends and the captains of his army and those that had charge of the horse. There came also unto him from other kingdoms and from the Isle of the Sea bands of hired soldiers. From the other side of the sea, great troops of horsemen of the Arabs and Moabites, and there were countless horsemen, bowmen, and foot soldiers. He resolved suddenly to destroy the camp of the Christians, and he went out to meet them at the place called Almonte. This is one of the direct translations. This is, again, you all look this up. The book is called The World of El Cid, Chronicles of the Spanish Reconquest by Simon Barton, page 218.
So what
now,
you're
give
quoting,
me a reference. What you're talking about.
So what you're quoting, if I'm not mistaken, that's a poem, basically. The Chronicle of El Cid is basically a poem. And what he's speaking of is the people coming from those distant lands in the east, right? So what I asked you, you still haven't provided, because you couldn't get everything they said, all primary sources about the Moabites in the ancient times. You couldn't put it on two pieces of paper in totality. So I'm trying to see how you're getting this transition from them coming way from the Near East to the northeast of Africa. Now, if you was to say maybe the Maori tribe, that was the people that betrayed Numidia with Romans, then you might have a tenuous tie to that. But you still haven't proven that those people became the Moors based on a poem from the Middle Ages. It just
right, he said based on a poem. The brother asked me, you gotta mute real quick, brother. The brother asked me to read a direct source. I read the source. He says it's a poem, that he doesn't know anything about any of this stuff. And this is what I'm saying. If you're gonna have a debate, at least be informed. I don't know the Egyptian hieroglyphs like that, but I was still able to have the discussion with my brother Smash. And one of the things that Brother Smash said while I was breaking down some of those glyphs was, yeah, Lord Abba knows what he's looking at when he's looking at this, the breakdown that I was giving on one of the glyphs, right? Because I did study this stuff. Brother, read my works first. If you're going to challenge me, I'm open to the challenge. But if you're just going to make that's what, the dude Amin Rasqual used to call microwave scholarship, where you're just coming up to just refute something based off of what you hear on the backdrop of your worldview, which is the Bible, and that you all believe that Lot and Moab originate in the Bible when they just simply do not. They do
Come
not.
on now, dog. Come on, man.
I was waiting for one of those from Sa. I don't know why, but you muted, Sa.
All right, gentlemen, I'm about to close out. Apostle, you wanted to show something?
Yeah, I like to share my screen.
Okay, let's go.
All right. All right.
Your screen is there, Apostle.
All right. I had a different screen up here.
Crack
but
their head
let
right
me-
now, Apostle. Go out with a bang. Crack
let me see if I
Lord
can-
Abba head.
I'm trying to make it bigger. Hold on.
Pause, man. Pause.
Yeah, I'm pausing. I'm gonna stop sharing this one here, and I want to share this one next to it because it makes the screen a little bigger. Let me see.
You should have just went ahead and did it, brother. It was good.
Okay, let me share this one then. Let me stop. Hold on. I'll do it again. There we go. That's what I wanted to show.
You
see
made
it?
smaller, yeah.
Now it's bigger on my end.
Okay, it's smaller on this end.
But can you see Moab? Where's that? You see Judah?
Yeah.
Okay, you see Salah, you see Edom down at the bottom.
Yeah.
You see Jerusalem.
Yes, and Judah.
You see Almon. This is the other son, Ammon. Right next to Moab. Moab. Now, what he showed the Moors came from was Sahara, Northern Africa. And in the Christian era, this did not exist anymore. There was no land of Moab in Christianity.
Thank you.
They were gone.
Thank you. Thank you,
there
brother.
was no land called Ammon.
That's right.
The Ammonites. They were gone.
I agree with him, sa.neter.
All of this,
I don't know what he's proving here, but I agree with him.
Man. All of this is Israel. So what he showed, even he's showing a different people that he's trying to associate with the people of Ruth, which he is not showing the descendants of Ruth that married, became David's grandmother, and want to sit up there and talk about the story in the Bible is fake. But yet he want to use the people out of the Bible and separate them from the Bible. That's crazy. How do you do that?
All right, can I respond? And we can start. We can wrap it up after that.
I wouldn't waste my time responding.
Well, no, I'm going to respond.
You can't respond.
Yes, I can. If you be quiet, I can. So what he's saying is, Brother La asked me a specific question. See, if you research Moab, one of the things that is uncertain is where the borders were in the ancient Near East, as it's called. So with brother, that's a biblical interpretation. That's not
a map.
That is a drawing, brother. That's a cartoon. That's what Katazar was doing during the debate. Basically, listen to me, brother Apostle, real quick. Though that where Moab is situated is disputed in the scholarship, it's disputed in the archaeology. So when you show that as a definitive source, you do yourself a disservice, because all I'm going to do is pull up those references of actual archaeologists, to which you are not. You're not an archaeologist.
Okay, you just showed Northern Africa. Show me the word mode in there. Show me in your
arguments is not even worth entertaining.
Show me the word Moab on the continent of Africa. Show it to.
But this the thing. I asked the brother to put his best foot forward and showing any type of archaeological or historical evidence or basically a primary document showing what the Moors or the Moabites say about themselves. And he went to a medieval poem written from El Cid, was a warrior, wasn't even a scholar. So
that's not what these people
even
are so disingenuous,
the
man.
directive that he showed before, the name spelling was not M-O-A-B. There were M-O-R-O-A-B or A-V. He showed all kind of different stuff. Trying to associate it with Moab.
They didn't stay stagnated in one place. They moved around.
Listen, brother, no, I'm talking about the name of the land, of the country, of the people. And as far as their religion, you can't name one country as a whole change their religion. A country don't people might, but a country does not change. America is a Christian society. It would never become an Islamic society. America will always be a Christian society. Now, you might have some Americans may take on Islam, but the whole country ain't doing that.
Okay,
Real
so
quick,
Apostle,
brother
I just want to
Lot,
ask
in
you
the
this,
case of the Phoenicians, real quick, in the case of the Phoenicians, we can see the
Apostle,
ties.
I'm gonna just ask you,
I
brothers,
just
just
want to
one
say this.
question,
We can
and then I'm
see
gonna
the
leave it alone.
ties with Phoenicia and Carthage in the historical record. We can't see that with Moab and Morocco. We just don't see it.
I'm just
They
gonna
didn't
say, ask
exist
you,
at the
brothers,
same
just one
time.
question, and I'm
Like
gonna leave
I
it
say,
alone.
there was no Spain when Moab existed. There was no
That
Spain.
being the
It was
case,
called Carthage.
that being the case, Apostle and Gideon, out of those 26 countries that's in Africa,
I mean,
how
54.
many out of the 26 is Muslim countries?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I would say pretty much all of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's some Christianity.
I'm not saying
countries
there were
over there.
Moors there, but the Moors aren't Moabites.
So
Right.
this
You know
is
how we
this
can
is
say
this is what let me say.
we can say with certainty the Carthaginians, they come from the Near East. They come from Tyre and Sidon. We can say that because there's historical records that prove that. But this Moab and Morocco or Mori and Algeria, they made the Moors. No, that's not the case.
That's
But
why
you don't know
myself,
that.
I asked a specific question to Lord Abbott, asking him,
Mhm.
where did they
Lord
derive?
Abbott is the only
No,
person
Apostle,
I
brother
know.
Lie's talking, brother. How you just gonna
Yeah,
cut
but
the
he
brother
just
off? Go ahead,
finished.
brother Lie. I don't want to hear you right now. I hear you every
I
sa.neter show.
understand.
Brother Lie, what
I
are you
understand.
asking?
I've learned to sometimes just be still and quiet when Apostle talk and just let him go ahead, man. Go
Not
ahead,
me.
Apostle.
You ain't gonna just keep cutting me the hell off. That ain't gonna keep happening. I ain't the
I didn't
normal
cut,
average sa.neter guest. We ain't gonna do that.
brother. I didn't
I'm
cut
putting my
loud.
paper. This is what I'm going to do. I'm putting my paper in the private chat. So what y'all can do is read it, and if you want to critique it, and then come back and have a discussion or a debate, we can do that. You simply do not know enough to just on the fly have this debate with me right now on sa.neter. That's just not how things work. So my paper is there. Y'all can click on it, critique it, and then say, you know what, I got something that I can disprove Lord Abba on. His sa.neter up. I will be glad to come back on sa.neter and get it in with y'all.
And
How
with
about
that, I want to say peace and blessings. Thank y'all, everybody.
Peace, peace.
Shalom, peace to
Yeah.
y'all, man.
Salam, shalom.